Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to day 2 of the 2025 NFL Draft. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on X at The Bills Guys. Joined as always by my co-host, Dave Tilton. You can find him on X at Tilt Money. And Dave, after a whirlwind first round with the Buffalo Bills, did us all a favor, did not trade out last year, made the time we spent live streaming yesterday worth it, selecting Maxwell Hairston. We are back here for day 2 and hoping some more. A ton of cornerbacks go off the board, hoping maybe like a ton of, quarterbacks start to go off the board, and some players at positions of value for the Buffalo Bills remain intact to pick 56.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. To me, I always thought day 2, day 2 has been my favorite day of the draft since they moved the draft to being to this 3-day format. I absolutely loved it when all 3 first rounds were on that Saturday. I loved the fact that you went straight into round 2. There wasn't really time to do a board reset, right, for these teams.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't time to kind of digest and kind of maybe make calls about trades like there is now. And so I think teams that are picking at the top of the second round are at an advantage now in the format coming into tonight, probably fielding phone calls. Wonder if Brandon Beane, looking at those 2 second-round picks now the Bills have, is going to do a little maneuvering tonight, right? Yeah. Because it sounds like the Bills may have missed out on Tyleik Williams based on the reports from himself that he said the Bills were going to take him at 30 if he was there. That tells me the Bills are very interested in a run-stuffing defensive tackle and perhaps at a size archetype that is above maybe what they've looked at from a weight standpoint in the past. So that brings into play guys like Alfred Collins and maybe even Deone Walker. We'll see. But a number of guys still available. Will be interesting to see if Beane gets aggressive here, knowing he has the 2 second-rounders to move up. Or if the Bills find themselves at the end of the night here with a third-round pick, right? Because we don't have one as of right now. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they fill it out tonight.
The ideal world, right? If we're painting a picture of how exactly we want this night to go, I think most people will say, like, you stay in place. Someone really nice, like a defensive tackle, drops you at 56. You add an edge rusher at 62, and then you trade back into the third round and take a speedy boundary wide receiver, right? Like that would be filling all the immediate 2025 holes. The value came to you. You have like 4 players taken in the top 80 picks. That is probably the dream scenario tonight. But the reality is, as maybe some defensive tackles start to come off the board, does Brandon Beane get a little bit antsy? Because we saw more defensive tackles go yesterday than we thought. I didn't think Tyleik Williams was going to go in the first round. If he did, I thought it would be to the Buffalo Bills, and they'd have their guy. So now you have 5 DTs already off the board, right? Another one goes, you got 6. 2 go, you got 7. You're down to DT 8 now. And I know it's a deep class, but if you're Brandon Beane, at some point, do you get antsy and try to trade up from 56 to get your guy? And it's clear probably now, if the Bills were after Tyleik, that this is a position that they are really coveting and trying to fill. And if you just look at the roster, it makes sense with Larry Ogunjobi suspended, Daquan Jones on the last year of his deal. In 2026, it is Ed Oliver, it is Dwayne Carter, and it is maybe Zion Logue. So as William Collin comes in and says, let's cultivate some mass here. All right, let's get some big, beefy guys along this defensive line here on day 2.
Yeah, and again, a tell maybe of what type of defensive tackle they were going for, and one that we've been kind of looking for some time, right? The mold of a Tyleik Williams, the mold of a CJ West, the mold of an Alfred Collins, right? These are the types of guys that would kind of fit that mold of what Tyleik was and is. But obviously he's gone now, so he's not available. So
the interesting thing with Tyleik, though, is, and we had this conversation in the pre-draft process, yes, Tyleik fits in the bucket with like the Alfred Collinses and the CJ Wests. I agree with you. But I also think if there was any player that was going to leave that bucket and develop a 3-down skill set, CJ West and Tyleik Williams were those 2 guys. And CJ West has those super short arms compared to Tyleik. So I think the Bills probably thought Tyleik could eventually become a 3-down player, which that's where I'm starting to question, like, okay, does this really open it up for Alfred Collins now? Does this really open it up for Jamari Caldwell now? Or was Tyleik the exception because they thought they could get those 3 downs out of him?
Well, and also where you're picking them, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
picking a guy in round 1, then you expect that to be maybe the ceiling of a guy like Tyreek. You think he's going to be more. But now that you're in round 2, maybe as being said, maybe he's a 2.5 down player or a 2 down player. And it's like the value for taking a guy in round 2, it doesn't have to be what they thought maybe Tyreek would be, but they still want those primary traits that they were after with Tyreek, which was his run stuffing ability. Anything beyond that then now becomes
Mhm.
a bonus for a guy that they pick here. So I think there is that fair point that you made, but it's also, I think, when you're taking the guy, how much are you really going to put into those buckets? And I think so. We'll see, like, right when it comes to round
Mhm.
2, if they make a move up, perhaps for a guy that they think could be a 3 down guy, or if they kind of stay put. So that's
Yeah.
gonna be a really interesting storyline to kind of watch tonight.
And let's sort of like take a look at those two buckets, because the two buckets we're really talking about here, the 2 down pluggers, right? These are the guys who, yes, you might not get that 3 down ability out of them, but when they are in the field, they're making Ed Oliver, Terrell Bernard, Taron Johnson. They're making these guys the best versions of themselves because they are freeing them up. And I think that's important. Like we talk about, well, we want this guy to be a playmaker in his own right, but what if he makes other guys playmakers or helps other guys accentuate their playmaking skills? That's something to consider. But then the other bucket is like these 3 tech, 1 tech versatile guys like a Joshua Farmer. They can play a little nose, they can play a little 1, they can play a little 3. You know, they're in that 310-ish pound range. They can do multiple things for you, and they can play all 3 downs. So that's really, I think, what the Buffalo Bills are debating. And I have here, we have some graphics here tonight. I'm going to put one of those graphics up here in a moment that sort of breaks down some of the buckets and some of the position groups that the Buffalo Bills could be keying in on tonight. 1 second here, and we got the graphic now, right? So when we look at the interior defensive line, the first 5 guys are the 5 guys that I think the Buffalo Bills would have a second round grade on, or someone they would covet in the second round. Once
Mhm.
we get down that list, it's more like third round guys if we trade back in, or second round guys if we get really desperate, right? Or even like maybe some of these guys slip into the fourth round, and if we have to pull the trigger there, which that would not be ideal. Browns are about to make their pick in a second, so one of these guys could come off the board. But in looking at this, we have Darius Alexander. He's sort of that 3 tech, 1 tech. He can do a lot of different things. TJ Sanders, probably more of a 3 tech, but maybe he can do a little bit of both. Joshua Farmer can legitimately do a little bit of both. Alfred Collins is pretty much a plugger. And then Omar Norman Lott is getting you just strictly 3 tech ability. And Carson Swessinger just came off the board, the linebacker to UCLA to the Browns. So we have a guy who the Bills had some rumored interest in as a possible Matt Milano replacement in 2026 off the board. So I don't have to worry. If anyone didn't want the Bills to take a linebacker on day 2, one of your stressors just went away in Carson Swessinger to the Browns. But looking at these 5 names here, the one that people love to talk about on Twitter, because I leave him off lists all the time, is
Mhm.
Omar Norman Lott, because he's such an intriguing penetrator. He's such an intriguing pass rusher. But I don't know if he, like, we talk about those 2 down pluggers not having the versatility. Omar Norman Lott's giving you nothing on rundowns. Like, he is a pass rush specialist. So it's an intriguing list here. I think Darius Alexander, I think Joshua Farmer, and I think Alfred Collins probably lead the way, even though TJ Sanders is so very Billsy.
Yeah, and I think, the 2.5 down player is something that's an interesting concept as
Mm-hmm.
well, because I think that's kind of the sweet spot for the Bills tonight, right? Is like they want to I imagine they want to find a guy that's not strictly one-dimensional either way, right? And I think if
Mm-hmm.
they can find, there may be a guy who's a really good run stuffer, there may be a guy who's a pure 3 tech like Omar Norman Lott, like you said. But at the end of the day, the Bills may end up saying, like, we need to get a guy that's more of a 2.5 type player. It's an interesting thought and it's an interesting discussion, because it's like, do you take a guy who is really, really good at one thing and sacrifice essentially the entirety of the other trait that you might want? Or do you take a guy that you think could potentially be both? And this has been my talking point for the last couple of years in the draft, right? I'm always like, take the stud, even if he can only play one position, right? So if the Bills really feel like they need the most help at stopping the run, then you should take a guy like that, even if he has limited upside in pass rush ability. As to say, if a guy's okay at pass rushing and okay at stopping the run, like, does that outweigh a guy who's just really, really good at stopping the run? We will see.
Trying to take a look now. The Houston Texans pick is in, so we're moving fast and furious now here in the second round. But Carson Schlesinger is off the board. That's an interesting one. Let's take a look at some of these other sort of position groups other than IDL, and I'm going to sort of bring this graphic back up here in a second. No producer Chris tonight, so we're all on our lonesome here.
We're on our
But
lonesome. It's okay.
looking at some of these other position groups that the Buffalo Bills could be keying in on, I think one of them is edge rusher. That's another big one I think that most Bills fans want to talk about. And there's some really intriguing names here as well. And I think the top of that list is the bona fide guys. Mike Green, Donovan Izaraku, Nick Skirton, Landon Jackson, JT Tuamalu. And there was a really interesting tweet that I saw from Max Toscano, one of my favorite followers on social media, and he's a Bengals guy. And the Bengals obviously took Shamar Stewart yesterday, and he was talking about edge archetypes. And he talked about teams who play a 4-3, much like the Bills play a 4-3, just like the Bengals. He says, if you're a team playing a 4-3, it's very difficult to live with some of those like bendy, lighter weight edges. You are purposely and intentionally looking for more of those heavier edges, because if you want to go nickel, if you want to drop two safeties, back and play that 2 deep shell, you really need those bigger, sturdier edges to set the edge, to be able to handle tight ends, because teams are going to try to condense things on you, put hats on hats and take advantage of the fact that you don't have a lot of size on the field. So that really got me thinking, right? Like that takes Josiah Stewart's off the board. That takes the Prince Millions off the board. That might even take like a guy like a Braden Swinson off the board, and Mike Green off the board, Donovan Izaraku off the board. And we're really literally looking at guys like Landon Jackson, guys like JT Tuamalo, guys like Femi Aladejo. That's sort of the world that we're living in if the Buffalo Bills are looking for more of those power edges.
And we have a trade now. The Titans have traded with the Seahawks. So the Houston Texans take Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, good pick for them. And now the Titans, who were on the clock, have made a trade with Seattle, which, by the way, makes a lot of sense because I was doing these tickers tonight, the picks, and there was the scrolls. Seattle had a shitload of picks tonight. Between the DK Metcalf trade, the trade yesterday that they made, they have a lot of picks on day 2. So kind of makes sense they're using some ammo to trade up here, and we'll see who they take. But yeah, so the Texans take Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver.
All right, continuing on with our coverage here, we will see who Seattle picks, but let's circle back to Maxwell Hairston real quick as like some of the names come off the board. Obviously, I think the interesting news today was Tyleik Williams saying he had he thought he was going to go with the Buffalo Bills if he didn't go sooner. The Bills had sort of told him he was going to be the pick. That really got me thinking about sort of Maxwell Hairston, and Brandon Beane said in his press conference, like, oh, we had a first-round grade on him. I don't really know if I believe Brandon Beane when he says he had a first-round grade on Maxwell Hairston, especially if those reports are true that the Buffalo Bills only had 12 first-round grades this year sort of on their draft board. Because to me, the news that Tyleik was option A and Maxwell Hairston was option B, it screams to me that the Buffalo Bills clearly have sort of just this list of players that they probably see as like second-round graded players, but players who are first-round caliber to draft once all your first-round grades go away. Maybe they had a first-round grade on Tyleik and they had a first-round grade on Maxwell Hairston. I don't know, but you look around at all these consensuses and you don't really see either of those two being like consensus bona fide, like blue chip players, which is where you typically see those first-round picks go. But it's going to be really interesting to see who's in the Bills buckets as we move along, and as some names come off, if Brandon Beane gets antsy.
Yep, and we see now that the Seattle Seahawks have traded up to take Randy Hardman favorite here in Nick Emenwari, the safety.
That's a Mike McDonald guy, man.
That's the trade up for Seattle. A really nice move for them, I feel like there. And so Seattle trades up, gets the freak athlete Nick Emenwari. You see the Seattle War Room all clapping right now if you're watching the broadcast on NFL Network. A nice move for them there. I think that's a nice one for Seattle.
And if we bring up sort of our our board here of buckets. I did create a bucket this evening for this position group, safety and linebacker, because I do think that there is a legitimate chance the Buffalo Bills could pull the trigger on one of these two positions, because it's not just about 2025 needs. It's sometimes it's about 2026 needs as well. And Taylor Rapp will be in the last year of his contract. Damar Hamlin will no longer be a Buffalo Bill if they don't re-sign him. Derek Forrest won't be a Buffalo Bill if they don't re-sign him. Those are one-year deals. So really you're looking at a world in 2026 where Taylor Rapp is on the last year of his deal, a guy who really struggles to stay healthy, only has like $2.5 million on that contract next year, guaranteed, not a lot of money. And you have Cole Bishop, who's a second-round pick, who we're hoping develops into something this year. So we get down to like pick 56, and the board falls a certain way, and Brandon Beane's not able to trade up and get a defensive tackle he likes, or an edge rusher he likes, or a wide receiver he likes. You can realistically envision a world where Xavier Watts looks intriguing to the Buffalo Bills if he's on the board, or Andrew Makuba, or Kevin Winston Jr. I think Billy Bowman Jr. is more of a third-round guy, like a trade-up candidate into the third round. Hey, we got two guys we really like in the second round. We think Billy Bowman's sticking out on the board, late 3, early 4. We're going to trade up and go get him. He's more in that category, I think. But whether it's Watts, whether it's your guy Makuba, whether it's Kevin Winston Jr., I think safety is a realistic conversation to be had tonight. I know the national media is really trying to fit that narrative as well.
Yeah, and one of the things here is if the Bills do end up with an extra third-round pick here, and we get, we kind of essentially have a bonus pick here, then I would love to see a guy like Andrew Makuba get picked by the Bills. And we're getting the details now of that Seattle trade, that Seattle gave up picks 52 and pick 82. So 2 second and a third there. They had multiple picks, obviously, as we mentioned, but yep. So they're moving up. I think safety. I think that's the discussion, right? Because I think most people will say that the Bills need a corner, an edge, and an interior defensive lineman. We've got the corner already. And then that fourth kind of position is a little bit up for debate, right? A lot of people maybe think, okay, it's the speed boundary wide receiver, but is that going to outweigh, like if that's like your 5th, 6th receiver on the roster, is that going to outweigh a potential maybe starting caliber safety, even though you do have 2 penciled in safeties and you signed Derek Forrest? Which one of those do you, as a fan of the team, and this is like a question really to everybody, the comment section, what do you weigh more? Do you weigh kind of going after that receiver more, or do you weigh going after a safety more and adding a potential another prospect on the defensive side?
Because if you're looking for a 2026 starter at safety, the cliff falls off after Billy Bowman Jr. significantly. Like I don't really like the back half of the safety. Like you're looking at special teamers, you're looking at backups.
Right.
Wide receiver, though, I think you can find like niche speed guys to add to the room throughout this draft from rounds 1 to 5. So to me, it's, if you're looking at 2025, you can fill a 2025 need in getting a field stretching receiver throughout the draft. Whereas getting a possible 2026 starter at safety, you got to do it today. I don't think you're going to be able to accomplish that tomorrow. I know the people in the comment section are saying like, hey, we really like Derek Forrest. Like Washington Commanders fans say good things. Dan Quinn comes in, new system. He really excelled in that Ron Rivera system, which is more similar to what Sean McDermott did. Don't disagree with any of that. Like if the Bills don't address safety today, I think they're fine. But I also think Brandon Beane looks to the future. And in the future, Taylor Rapp is in the last year of his contract next year. And Derek Forrest and Damar Hamlin are not under contract anymore. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, maybe you want a little bit of a backbone there, but you also need backbone at defensive tackle because Larry Ogunjobi and Daquan Jones, their contracts are up. You probably want a little bit more backbone at defensive end because AJ Epinesa and Joey Bosa's contracts are up as well. So really the defensive side of the ball to me is where you're going to want to make some heads and tails. And Noah Sheldon comes in and says Malachi Moore is a starting safety. I think he could be. Jalen Reed as well as another one, Jonas Sanker. So maybe I was a little too nonchalant with my commentary there, but even those guys I think are coming off the board round 4. So maybe we could address it round 4. I'd feel more comfortable with these top tier guys though.
Yeah, and the Browns take Judkins, the running back here.
It's a good pick for them to replace Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember, I kind of like sort of jokingly said like, "Hey, with the trade down, could they take Genty at 5?" They didn't, obviously, but now they do take the running back and a deep running back draft. I think smart play by them. I do like what Cleveland's doing so far in this draft, kind of looking to the future. They kind of need to, right? I don't think 2025 is really going to be at much of a season for them, but 2026, I think, where they can possibly get out of that Watson contract and look ahead. Like it was smart for them to do that. So yeah.
Mhm.
And then as far as getting back to the Bills, right? I think now like there are still, I think, let's say on the defensive side of the ball and safety again, guys that can make an impact for you in 2025 and beyond right away. Whereas, you wonder about what a receiver at this juncture is going to add for you when they kind of struggled a little bit to integrate Amari Cooper into the offense last year. I mentioned that last night, and he's a pro's pro, right? A 10-year-plus vet, knows exactly what he's doing, and they even struggled to get him worked into the offense. So I don't know. I go back and forth on this a lot. I do think if we see the Bills ending up with an extra pick tonight, I think I'm almost kind of like leaning towards it being a safety.
Mhm.
But I could be convinced
I
otherwise.
mean, like if you think about it, right? The Bills go and they get a defensive tackle at 56. They get an edge rusher at 62, and then they trade back up to get a safety that fell, like a Andrew Bakuba, or maybe not a guy who fell, but a guy who I think should go around the middle of the third round in Billy Bowman Jr. You've just injected, and this was one of the things that I forgot to mention at the top when I wanted to talk about Maxwell Hairston Jr. With Maxwell Hairston Jr., you added a fast, energetic playmaker, a guy who has 3 career pick sixes. He had 5 interceptions, which led the SEC in 2023. Just like you added youth, you added energy, you added speed, you added playmaking. I went back because Maxwell Hairston said he was in Detroit for the Bills-Lions game this year. He was like a guest of Ray Davis. He's from Michigan. He said it was at the Lions game, and it kind of made me nostalgic, and I went back and I rewatched the highlights of that game. That game is bonkers, by the way. The YouTube highlights are 20 minutes long, and so many things happened in that game. But I went back and just rewatched that game for fun, just because that's what fans do. They rewatch things for fun. It's a lot more sad in the middle of July when you're waiting for that football to come back and really shaking. But hit me a little early this year. Man, that defense was bad. Oh, like you had Cole Bishop starting that game because Taylor Rapp was hurt. You have him go down. You have Rasul Douglas go down. You got Kyrie Elam in there. You got Kareem Jackson in there. At one point, I think Matt Milano went down. Balin Spector was in there. Like you just had guys getting worked over by that Detroit Lions team. And the depth of the defense was really tested on that day. And I just look at that and I'm like, I need some youth. I need some speed. I need some energy. I need some length. I need some strength. Like our defense needs it all. Right. So to me, like that's where, like, if we want to spend our first 4 picks on defense, I got no problem with it. I know we need a speed, field stretching, boundary wide receiver, but I just don't care that this defense needs such a identity shift. I think Joey Bosa helps with that. I think when they're back, Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi help with that. But man, this defense needs a lot of work.
It does. And I think you need to change, like you said, with a guy like Stewart, or others, right? They can change the attitude of this defense in 1 year. And you really do need that. And you really do need to kind of change the swagger level, the attitude, whatever you want to call it. Like not just, empty swagger, right? But it's got to be real meaningful attitude change from good players, guys that are going to like push other guys on the defense. And Miami's traded up into this pick with the Raiders. So Miami
they took a guard, University of Arizona guard, Jonah Savanea. So they took an offensive lineman with their pick. So they're adding some beef in Miami. It's about time, right? We were making fun of Mike McDaniel and that team yesterday for their softness, I guess was what we would say.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. So we were giving them a hard time for sure. But you know what? Good kudos to them for trying to improve that part of their roster. And look, talk about Miami struggling with their offensive line, talk about the Patriots struggling with their offensive line a year ago. Both those teams now trying to address those needs in this year's draft so far. So Miami on the clock. You got Alec Ingold up there.
Now the Patriots are on the clock.
And the Patriots.
The trade was Raiders traded pick 37 and 143, and they got in return 48, 98, and 135. So quite the haul for the Raiders to move back just 11 spots.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. Good for them. Pete Carroll, he's savvy, right? So it's going to be interesting. The Raiders are a very interesting team. I don't really know that they're going to compete, but I think they're going to be like an annoying team to play for those teams in the AFC West. I think they'll be a little more feisty than they have been in the years past. Like they gave away a lot of games last year. I thought they could have won, but yeah.
Breaking news here. Pete Aielli, the president of the Buffalo Bills, announcing the Buffalo Bills will have a new alternative uniform this season. Okay. Part of the NFL and Nike rivalries series, I guess. I don't know. Something I didn't know existed, but there will be a new rivalry alternative uniform this year. My guess is it's probably going to be the Red Helmets. So for those of you who want to see the Red Helmets, you might be seeing them this year against the Miami Dolphins or against the New England Patriots.
I'm probably in the minority here, but like I really don't care about the alternates. Like the uniform stuff does not.
It just bugged me. It's just always bugged me. Like everyone else is doing it, and the fans want it. Like why do you got to drag it out? Like Tennessee was doing it, the Eagles were doing it, the Broncos were doing it. It's like, why do you got to take your sweet ass time? Like why couldn't you just done it when everyone else was doing it? Like they're just always like a step behind. Everyone wanted it. Like, and it's not like it's our new uniform. It's just like 2 games a year. I want to see them in the red helmets. Is that too much to ask? It was. Apparently, it's not anymore. So it's looking like the Buffalo Bills are going to have. But watch them get their rivalry uniform this year, and it's not red helmets. It's something completely different.
Yeah, so, it'll be like Drew Bledsoe. Like
it'll be like some kind of like black and white thing, like because the whole graphic was like black and white. There was no color to that graphic at all. But
no, it can't be. People would riot.
It'd be good for you, though. No way. It'd be good for you, though. With the color blindness.
Yeah.
It'd be perfect for you.
Well, that's true. That's true. That Jets Bills color rush, I'll never forget that game. The green and red. Oh my God. It was the most brutal. It was the most brutal game.
I don't think we didn't have a podcast back then, did we?
No, this was before. I was
gonna say so Dave, what were your thoughts on the game? I don't know. I couldn't tell who was who.
I couldn't tell who was throwing the ball to who. And like they both had white numbers, right? So it was like, oh man, that was very tough for me. Very tough for me to tell the difference there. So I actually like it when like the color rush, like the Bengals, like when they wear the all whites with the white helmet, like that really helps me out because it's a very clear contrast with the other team, no matter what they're wearing. So yeah, that one was tough for me.
So following up on the uniform thing, Elena Getzenberg of the Buffalo News, the Bills, along with the rest of the AFC East and NFC West, will have new uniform for a home game versus a division rival in 2025. Designs have been brought to life by pulling inspiration from the history of each market and the aspects of the community that only the team's city embodies. Oh, we're just getting the standing Buffalo, aren't we? We're just going to get the standing Buffalo.
Probably.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. Who knows when they'll announce that? They'll make us wait until the middle of like July or something. Yeah. All right. So let me check in here to see if any picks have come off the board. I know the Patriots were on the clock here. Patriots are still on the clock.
Yeah, still not seeing theirs come through, but
dude, have you seen this? The Patriots have waived the following play. The Patriots just cut 6 guys today. MJ Devonshire is one of them. Our pit guy from last year.
The Raiders
return. Yeah, the Raiders. They just cut 5 guys. Isaiah Spiller was one of them.
Dude, I mean, there were I'm sorry. Isaiah Spiller never passed the eye test for me. People love that guy in the draft.
We were both anti-Spiller that year.
I just didn't get it. I honestly did not get it. That was the Breece Hall draft, right?
Yeah.
Isaiah, yeah. Did not pass the eye test for me. I didn't think on tape he looked great. I never thought he should have been a top 3-5 running back in that class. And we had people like Kendall Mursky and others, right? Like I think
don't do Kendall like that. Don't do Kendall.
I know. I'm just saying there were people that I respect their opinions, and like they were very high on him. And I thought like there was something wrong with what I was watching. But man, like he's not good. He's just not good.
Well, the Patriots are still on the clock. We are still waiting for the New England Patriots to make their selection. They were going real quickly, hot and heavy.
There we go. Patriots made the pick. It is Trayvon Henderson, running back.
Ooh, that is a interesting pick for them to complement Ramondre Stevenson. He's a good pass catching back. He's a good pass blocking back. He's got that explosive like speed. Like a lot of people wanted to comp Travion Henderson in the pre-draft process to Jahmyr Gibbs, and I thought that was really unfair. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a much better running back, but you can kind of get that vibe in the New England Patriots backfield now with Ramondre and Travion Henderson. So that's an interesting pick for them, and that's a running back that if the Bills were to consider a running back on day 2, he was one of the 2 I would have considered because I feel like he could have been a legitimate James Cook replacement from day 1. Dylan Sampson is the other one, where if the Bills were to like trade James Cook this weekend, Dylan Sampson's the other guy that I think I really feel strongly could plug and play with Ray Davis and with Ty Johnson, and the Bills wouldn't miss as big of a beat as if they switched the archetype of the running back by drafting a different guy. So Henderson and Dylan Sampson were those 2 guys, and Henderson is now obviously off the board. And quite frankly, I just don't think the Buffalo Bills are going to trade James Cook. I think they're going to ride him out in 2025.
Yeah, I thought the Denver Broncos were a team tonight that would have been very interested in Travion Henderson with the fact that Javante's gone. They've got Jaleel McLaughlin. They got Estime. We know Sean Payton likes to use that trio of running backs. Denver's was coming up around pick 50, 51 or so. I got to say, like, it annoys me that the Pats got him for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's a good compliment to Ramondre, like you said, and it kind of hurts me. I have Ramondre in Dynasty. Don't love that either. But yeah, I think the Pats are actually doing a nice job in this draft too, between taking Will Campbell yesterday, now getting a weapon, kind of complementary weapon for Drake May in the backfield. We know Ramondre had some fumbling issues last year. They were trying to figure that out. They kind of gave Antonio Gibson like a courtesy start at the end of the season to kind of like, I don't know, scold Ramondre. But the new regime now with Vrabel, I think it's a nice duo they've got there now between those 2 guys. So yeah, the Pats, I mean, again, I think they could be the second best team in the division.
And that could attempt. I feel like Travion could have tempted the Bears too, because the Bears were reportedly sort of like in on Ashton Genty as well. They obviously settled for Colson Loveland. Ben Johnson probably is going to want a little bit more juice than DeAndre Swift. That's a guy that they actively chose to get rid of when he was the offensive coordinator in Detroit. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they have cooking up there.
And the Bears on the clock now, so I'm sure they felt like maybe they got snaked a little bit there if they were going to go for a guy like Henderson. So
I'll tell you what, without putting any graphics up, I'm looking at my Bills specific big board. I still have 3 players from the tier 1 of my big board that are still on the board. Mike Green, who's obviously had some serious allegations in his past, apparently did not do well in the interview process pre-draft with a lot of teams. My guess is he's not on the Buffalo Bills board, but premier edge rusher, but also does not fall into that category of a big edge rusher that we talked about at the top of the show. Like if the Bills are looking for a length and strength guy, that is not Mike Green.
It's not
Will Johnson is still on the board. It's obviously the knee issue that's dropping him. Medicals, the Bills have already taken a corner. Wouldn't expect him to be in play for the Bills. But the third guy that I have in tier 1 is Xavier Watts. And the reason why I had him in tier 1 on my list is everyone who's watched this show has heard what I've had my piece about Xavier Watts. Like I get it. He's not the most gifted athlete, but imagine if I imagine there are teams that wish they would have taken Cam Kinchins 2 rounds sooner last year. And Xavier Watts is 10 times the player Cam Kinchins is. This is a guy who was the Nagurski Trophy winner 2 seasons ago, decided I want to better myself, came back to college, played it out. His senior season was still a first-team All-Pro. Him and Travis Hunter, the only 2 consecutive first-teams All-Pros in this entire draft. Absolute ball hawk, center fielding in the secondary, had the most interceptions of any safety over the 2-year span the last 2 seasons with 14. And then you have the ability that he can come up and he can fit the run and he can blitz, and he's just a captain of that Notre Dame team, and he's just the kind of guy you want to build a culture around. If the Bills were to not go for a DT or a wide receiver or an edge rusher, my top guy, and I will continue to pound the drum until someone takes him off the board, is Xavier Watts.
Yeah, I mean, I said it, put it out on social media earlier, right? I said, like, man, like Xavier Watts is standing out on the board like a sore thumb. Donovan East standing out as well. And it's like, I get it. It would be kind of a luxury pick, but man, like you can make that pick if he's there and then try to figure out a way to get back up into the 3rd round with that ammo you have if you really want to shore up another position, right? Whether it's edge or defensive tackle, if that's the case. Like you don't pass on a great football player like that, in my opinion, especially when you do have the ammo to move back up if you want to. I mean, granted, if a guy like I don't know, TJ Sanders is there or Alfred Collins or someone like that, and they really want that run stopping defensive tackle, yes, they probably would take that guy over Watts in that scenario, but it would be really hard for me to pass on him if he kind of made his way all the way to pick 56 or even, started to creep into the early 50s. You might think about making a small move up for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much I think he can really be, almost feel like a little bit of a consolation prize to not getting Malachi Starks, even though like that probably wasn't going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't want a safety anyway,
Yeah.
but man, it would be nice. He's a great player.
A wide receiver off the board. The Chicago Bears have just selected Luther Burden. A very popular comp for Luther Burden in the pre-draft process was DJ Moore. So now the Chicago Bears have 2 DJ Moores. And I saw a really good post on X today from Mike Renner. Mike Renner was like, man, Luther Burden is a talented kid. I wouldn't have touched him in the top 15, but in the second round with a chip on his shoulder. Luther Burden posted last night on his Instagram him at like the Missouri facilities at like 1:30 a.m. getting a workout in. The Bears are getting a kid with a chip on his shoulder. I had him off my Bills specific draft board just because it was too rich for my blood in the first round, and I did not think he would be there in the second round. So I kind of just omitted him from my Bills specific draft board. But I put him on the list today of guys I consider if I was the Buffalo Bills, and he is now off the board. Hopefully this doesn't start too big of a run on receivers. I know we already seen Jaden Higgins go. The bigger ones, the better. Like I love Jack Besh. I love him. If he goes off the board, I won't be mad because he's not the kind of receiver I think the Buffalo Bills are looking for. It's those speedy boundary guys, the guys who can stretch the field. We got to hope some of those guys stick around. The longer they can stick around, the better it is for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think look, guys like Travion Henderson getting picked. I mean, yes, like it would have been cool to have a guy like that, but like the Bills weren't touching that guy in the second round. So guys like that, running backs, even more running backs that get picked now, players like this, I think Luther Burden goes here about where I figured he would go, right? I think that this is the right spot for him around pick 40, pick 39. And as you have him there, like now we start to get into this, I think, true second tier of wide receivers. Luther Burden kind of bridging that first and second tier. And now we get into a long list of guys that, especially those top 4, and I'll even include Horton and Felton kind of not necessarily as round 2 guys, but maybe as round 3 guys potentially.
Troy Horton or Ty Felton, I wouldn't flinch if the Buffalo Bills took him at 62. Certainly not 56. And I know it's a weird thing to say because there's 5 picks or 6 picks separating them. But at the end of the day, it's because it'll mean we've taken 2 players before we go and take a Ty Felton or Troy Horton. So if they're the third player, it's a little bit easier to swallow than if they were the second player that we take. But if you look at this first tier, right, like Trey Harris is not the burner, but he's certainly a boundary separator, and his analytics first man are better than anyone in this draft class. A guy like Elik Ayamana is known for having that huge game that he did against Travis Hunter. He gets after it as a run blocker. He's a big body guy. He looks exactly like Gabe Davis, but he gets after it. He's a boundary separator and in the 4.4s. You got Jalen Royals and Kyle Williams. We've done a number of we've had a number of conversations about them on this show. Kyle Williams probably the best separator in this class. Jalen Royals has got that linear downfield speed to go along with that yak ability. So the Bills have some options here, and none of these guys, fingers crossed, have come off the board yet.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of the second round has been interesting, right? You see Seattle make a trade up. But honestly, like kind of the guys that other than, I wasn't as familiar. I'm not really familiar with the offensive lineman Miami took, but that you knew of. But like otherwise, I feel like the guys that have been picked so far early in the second round, there haven't really been any surprises, I would say, as far as like the players. So we're kind of moving along here, and now we're on pick 40. So we're about 15 or so picks away from the Bills selection. And yeah, I saw in the comments section, about Watson. I kind of agreed with whoever it was, said like, yeah, Watts at 56 wouldn't want to trade up for him. And I kind of agree with that, right? Because I think that's, again, one of those luxuries where it's like, if he gets there, he gets there. If he doesn't, you want to keep those picks, right? Yeah. So I think that I fully agree with that.
We have Retro Central New York coming in saying how much you want to bet their first pick is on Landon Jackson. They met with him a ton. They draft guys they meet with, always do. Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna talk about guys that they've just like met with, the two that stick out like a sore thumb are Landon Jackson, the edge rusher, and Joshua Farmer, the interior defensive lineman from
Saints.
who the Saints just take off the board.
Not they took a quarterback, but not Shador.
Did they take, dude? What is with Tyler Shook? What is going on?
Mm-hmm. They took him.
He's not good. Like,
but that's who they go with. That's who they go with.
You use second round draft capital. You have Derek Carr, who literally can't like lift his arm. Like, you have Spencer Rattler, you have Jake Hayner, and now you have Tyler Shook. Like, I feel so bad for New Orleans fans, man. What a proud franchise that they were under Drew Brees, and they just have an owner and a GM who just refused to let go and rebuild properly. And look, they are just the nightmare scenario. Like, that's crazy. I'm not even saying they should have taken Shador. They should have just not taken a quarterback and just rebuilt other parts of that roster. Take a page out of Cleveland Browns playbook. Just ride the year again with Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner. What, Tyler Shook in the second round?
Yeah,
you spent a second round pick on like a guy who's pretty much Mike White. He might even be the same age as Mike White. Like, what are you doing? That's crazy. But hey, not a player I wanted the Bills to take.
Exactly. It's a quarterback. It's a quarterback, and it's a guy that we didn't even expect at quarterback to get picked between now and the Bills pick. So again, as we were talking with Greg last night, like, hey, any kind of wild card like that's unexpected at a position that the Bills don't need is a good thing for us right now. And I honestly have no idea what the Saints are doing in this draft. They go with the offensive lineman Banks, right, in round 1. Where's he going to play on that line? And now they go with Shook now in round 2. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their vision is, the Saints. Like, and I talk about vision with franchises. I talked about it a couple years back with the Tennessee Titans when they traded A.J. Brown. What was their vision? I don't understand what the vision is right now for the New Orleans Saints. Kuiper just back. By chance, good to have you back in the comment section, my friend. Very good.
So I wasn't watching the ESPN coverage yesterday, obviously. We were here live streaming, but apparently Mel had himself a Jimmy Clausen Day 2.0, huh? That's
and then like Greeny like asked him like 10 minutes before the draft was about to start tonight. He's like, what are these quarterbacks set on the board? When do you expect them to go? As to like set him up for another meltdown. And he was like, you could tell he was like, they were like, the producers were probably like, dude, you got to tone it down.
You chill. You should go eat some pumpkin pie and chill out.
So he's like, oh, Shador Sanders, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, the Steelers don't have a pick until the 3rd round. I feel like that's the absolute floor of when he will get drafted. And I was like, okay, yeah, probably.
I can see Shador not going to like the 4th or the 5th round. Like, but also like, here's the thing: if you don't think Shador is your franchise quarterback, and I mean this in the most respectful way possible, because I don't want to get into this. I don't want to get into this stupid conversation that you see on ESPN all the time. But like, do you really want all that baggage from a guy you think is like a developmental backup?
Bills just traded up.
Oh, we got to trade up. The Bills.
The Bills, according to Draft Diamonds, the Bills have traded up.
The Bills are on the clock, ladies and gentlemen. The Buffalo Bills are on the clock.
Is this Mike Green? I mean, who could this be for? Right?
Donovan Zaraku is the top guy on the board, I think. But obviously, Darius Alexander is another name that I think needs to be considered.
Yes.
But
Darius Alexander, Collins. TJ Sanders, maybe. But the Bills, yes, the Bills are up. And here we go. Bills have traded up. I'm all out of sorts.
So my official prediction here is Darius Alexander. What is your official prediction?
I will predict. Man, that's tough. I'll say, just to be different, I'll say TJ Sanders, but I think Darius Alexander's I think that's a great.
Yeah. And what do you think they gave up? Like, let's play that prediction game. I think a 4th and a 5th. I think they gave up a 4th and a 5th.
I mean, I can't imagine they gave up their other second here.
Dude, They traded both of their seconds, but they get Chicago's third. So the Bills now have a first, a second, and a third round pick. They trade picks 56, 62, and 109, their fourth rounder, for 41, 72, and 240. So the Buffalo Bills have given up their second pick of the second round. They have added a third round pick. They've lost one of their fourth rounders, and they've added a seventh. I don't have time to put that into the calculator before the Bills pick.
But that's moving
a
up.
Steep price.
It is a steep price, but it is moving up 15 spots.
This is a dude. Round. This is clearly a dude they believe in, whoever they're about to take here.
I mean, this is a big jump up, right? I mean, that's 15 spots in the second round. I do like that they got the third back. Don't really care about the seventh, to be honest. They had multiple.
Giving up the fourth is kind of.
Yeah, I would imagine just based. I don't know. I'll have to look at the Rich Hill chart. I would imagine the Bills quote lost in that trade.
Yeah.
But.
And we'll pull that up as the show progresses. We just don't have time and the resources to do that right now. But a minute 52 on the clock as the Buffalo Bills obviously have clearly made a decision as to who they're taking. I mean, you have Donovan Izaraku, you have Nick Skirton, you have Landon Jackson. My prediction is Darius Alexander. I believe you said TJ Sanders. Obviously, Xavier Watts is still on the board. He's one of my guys, but
wouldn't hate that. But I would have.
Is there a wider? Let me go back to my board. Is there a wide receiver worth it? Kyle Williams is my highest receiver on the board.
No, I don't think it could.
JT Tuamalu could be a guy here. If this is like a Femi Oladipo, like I'll be mad. I want it to be like a plug and play, not a developmental guy. So it'll be interesting to see.
They're showing the Bills war room right now.
Ooh, Dave, you are correct. The pick is in. In a selection that will likely be very controversial on social media once I get there, the Buffalo Bills elect a 3-tech penetrating defensive tackle, TJ Sanders, out of the University of South Carolina. Randy Hardman, you were in the chat. I saw you in there. I know you are excited. Dave, this is a guy I comped to Larry Ogunjobi. I think he is very, very Billsy. I know that Eric and Anth did their work on him in the film room, and they saw that he checked a lot of boxes of what the Buffalo Bills like. Give us your thoughts on the guy you just predicted here, TJ Sanders.
Well, I'll just give myself a sort of pat on the back. Yesterday, I said before the draft that I thought that the Bills would be taking either Landon Jackson or TJ Sanders at pick 30. Thought it was kind of a lot to take there at 30, but I thought that either of those picks would be very, very Billsy. Instead, they do end up with TJ Sanders, not at pick 30, but trading up to pick 41. I do think this is a really good, I guess, fit what I would say for what the Bills needed. TJ Sanders to me fits into that as what I would call 2.5 down player, possibly more, right? Possibly more. You wonder about his just general overall top end size. He's just under 300 pounds, but the 9.38 RAS. Improved each year as both a run defender and a pass rusher at South Carolina. Career best pass rush grade and run defense grades in 2024. 12th best stop percentage of draft eligible IDL. 5 sacks back-to-back years. But a guy that I think is at worst a 2.5 down player for the Bills and at best a 3 down player, and a guy that will immediately come in, help in run defense, and also give you a little bit of pass rush juice from the interior. So a very Billsy pick. I think as far as versatility, if you want to talk about that, left in the defensive tackles that were available, he was one of the most versatile left on the board, in my opinion. So a good pick for the Bills at a position they obviously needed. Some people are going to say they wanted more beef here, a bigger guy, but I think Sanders is the most versatile guy left.
The thing that needs to be noted with TJ Sanders, there's a lot of context I think that needs to be sort of sorted out here. Number one, he didn't pick up football, I think, until his junior year of high school. So he's like a legitimate late bloomer to the sport, or a late arriver to the sport. So that makes you think that there's still a lot of growth for him. This is a guy who was listed in college at like 285 pounds. And now at the combine, he weighed in at 297. And at his pro day, weighed in at 305. So he's right around 300 pounds, sort of in that area where the Buffalo Bills like to have their defensive tackles. This is a guy who is legitimately a penetrator. I mean, 60 pressures, 10 sacks, and 54 stops over the last 2 seasons at South Carolina. He does a lot of even and odd front stuff, which I think the Buffalo Bills will like. He's got those 33-inch arms. He's got an 80-inch wingspan. He's got 10 plus inch hands. Like, this is a guy who is a legitimately good athlete. Like I said, I comped him to a Larry Ogunjobi. But again, we talked about philosophy, Dave, and it's pretty clear, right? No defensive tackle went off the board. And the Buffalo Bills just gave up a ton to move up and take him. The Bills have made it clear where they stand at defensive tackle. Now, they still have a chance with their other 4th-round pick or their 3rd-round pick or a 5th-round pick. They still have a chance to add a one-tech plugger at some point in this draft. But the Buffalo Bills have made it clear that they prefer and they seek and they want guys who can penetrate. They are not looking for those nose tackle, nose guard types. Alfred Collins, this pretty much confirms to me that Alfred Collins was probably never in consideration for the Buffalo Bills, despite the fact that he has an instant impact first and second down player. He's got 35-inch arms. He weighs 330 pounds. Like, despite all of that, I don't think the Buffalo Bills maybe gave one iota of consideration, even though they did have a combine meeting, to a guy like Alfred Collins. It's clear the type that they want.
It is clear. And, I think when Beane comes out in the presser, he's going to say that TJ Sanders is the 3-down player. I have no doubt in my mind he's going to come out and say that. He's going to say he can play the run. He's going to say he can play the pass. He's going to say essentially that he's probably going to be the heir apparent to Daquan Jones, right, next to Ed Oliver. Like, you don't draft a guy, you don't trade up 15 spots in the 2nd round and draft a guy like that if you don't expect this guy to, one, play meaningful snaps for you this year, and obviously he's going to. And whether that's 3 downs this year, it remains to be seen. But certainly sounds like this will be a 3-down player in 2026 at worst, and if not, at some point in 2025 as the pairing with Ed Oliver, right, for your future. So a slightly undersized interior, if you want to say that. But if he's 305, right, then the Bills will work with that, right? I think Daquan Jones is in the 320 range, 315 range, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see, right? I don't think they want. I would imagine they're not going to want him to add too much weight because that would maybe sap some of his athleticism. But this guy is very athletic, very disruptive, and from an athleticism standpoint, you certainly like what the ceiling could be with a guy like TJ Sanders. So again, always thought this was a very Billsy type of pick. It ends up happening. I'll give myself sort of half credit on the predicting it tonight.
I like the pick, but I don't like the fact that we had to give up
so
that much to get it.
And then here the Rich Hill value chart, and honestly, I'm a little surprised by that. It must be that third that they got back, and the fact that the Bills, the difference between 15 picks in the 2nd round is still pretty significant, right? If we think about it, like 15 spots. This isn't a 3 to 4 spot move up. This is 15 spots. The Bills moved up. They picked at 41, right? So you have 2 picks in the top 41. That's pretty significant. So I think, look, the 3rd round pick, as well, as Zach Hilton says, it's a high 3rd round pick, right? It's early in the 3rd. So look, now instead of having kind of 2 picks here and somewhat back to back, we're gonna spread the enjoyment out over the evening tonight, and we're gonna be able to wait around for the 3rd round and see what they do there. So, look, people are going to look at it on the surface and I think say the Bills gave up too much. I don't love that they had to give that 4th rounder up, but they do have multiple fourths. And so at the end of the day, if they didn't think 10 guys were going to make this team, as we've always said, and it's more like 7 guys are going to make this team, that's okay, right? That's okay with me. So I'm not upset about what they gave up as much as some people would be.
All right. So I'm going to read off to you guys something that Eric just shared on social media.
And the Jets took Mason Taylor, by the way, tight end.
That's been rumored today. So like one of those few rumors that actually came true. I'm going to read off what the film room has to say, and I'm sure they're going to do a lot of work over the next couple of days on TJ Sanders as well. And you can actually go to the film room and watch their cut up of TJ Sanders. They've already done some work on him, but Eric posted, I just keep coming back to how much of a fit defensive tackle TJ Sanders is for the Bills. This is a post from March 15th. Over the last 3 years for defensive tackles on first and second down, minimum of 500 snaps, his 82 tackles were fourth. His 7 sacks were first. His 2.4 seconds snap to pressure, 27th. And his 8.4% pressure percentage, 19th. On third downs, minimum 200 snaps, 16 tackles, which is 7th in college football over that span, 3.5 sacks, which was 5th, 2.4 seconds snap to pressure, which was 21st, and 18.5 pressure percentage, which was 1st. And this is not of all draft eligible players. This is all defensive tackles in college football. On third down, he just repeats there. So he also notes he had a pretty good game against Bills backup center Cedric Van Pangranger, and he thinks he's comfortable playing both the 1 tech and the 3 tech. Obviously, 3 tech is more of his natural position, though. People want the weight. I get it. Like, people want the weight. They want a guy who's 330 pounds and has man boobs like Kenneth Grant. Like, that's what people want. That's not what you're getting with TJ Sanders. And I will right now say, like, what I believe the Buffalo Bills should do at defensive tackle is different from what they did at defensive tackle today. I would have preferred staying at 56 and taking Alfred Collins and using 62 on like Landon Jackson or another length and strength edge like Jordan Burge and trading. Like, I would have preferred that. That would make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. That doesn't take away from the fact that TJ Sanders is a good freaking football player. Like, it doesn't. Right. So we got to find a happy medium. We got to understand this is just what the Buffalo Bills are looking for at the position, whether we like it or not. And we go from here.
Yep. And I think there are people, again, you're never going to make everyone happy, right, in this. But I think, like, you have to at least give the Bills credit for, saying this is our guy, this is the move we're going to make. And they went and they did it, right? And now you see, San Francisco taking Alfred Collins right after, a few picks after. So very, very interesting. Just, it always seems to go that way for us, right? Last year was, I mean, but look, I agree with you. I think this then tells me that Alfred Collins was probably never really in play for them, like you said. So
Jordan Reed of ESPN, he said he made sure to pair these two together in every single mock draft that he did. Perfect fit. Not surprised that they traded up for him. Mark Gaughan of the Buffalo News, the Bills clearly do not love one-dimensional run plug only defensive tackles. And let's remember, their third down pass defense was dreadful last season, talking about how many times did Sean McDermott say we're not marrying our pass rush with our secondary? Like, It's just not coming together. So now you have Larry Ogunjobi, you have Ed Oliver, you have TJ Sanders, you have guys who can penetrate from the interior if you don't like the size, but they got to figure it out on first and second down still. The explosives are probably still going to be a problem, but at least maybe the pass rush should get a nice little bounce here. And TJ Sanders, just because he doesn't weigh 330 pounds, doesn't mean he can't get after it in the run game either.
No, he could definitely get after it in the run game. And he had his career best run defense grade in 2024 of, some of those advanced metrics that we look at. So he is a guy that I think, based on this move, you are expecting them to play the run and play the pass. Like there's no doubt about it. And I think the Bills probably felt there were very few, if not nobody left in this draft on the interior after what happened yesterday that could do that. So they went up and they get their guy. And so we will see how it plays out, right? It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. And just reading off of what Eric said too, like you mentioned, you won't be surprised if Brandon Beane calls him a 2.5 down player.
Yeah.
I think he's going to call him a 3 down player.
That's what I said.
Really, is that what you said? Okay.
I was like, I think he's, I thought he was a 2.5 as far as the categories being mentioned, but I said, when he gets up in his presser, he's going to call him a 3. He's going to call him a 3 down player.
for his size, he anchors well. And I mean, Dane Brugler even points it out in his strengths. Flashes violent hands and uses hands to shed and make stops at the line. Can push the pocket when he creates downhill momentum. More physical at the point of attack than expected for his size. So, like, this is a guy who can legitimately still anchor, even though he's not 330 pounds. He's probably going to play somewhere between 295 and 305 pounds is my guess. But this is a guy who is going to help you with the pass rush. He adds beef to that line. And if we are looking for that one-dimensional player, and Brandon Beane does want to add that one-dimensional player, there's still 6 or 7 guys that we could take in the 5th round that can give us that. Zion Logue was on our practice squad all last year. Could possibly give us that. Like, there's still an opportunity for us to have that big DT that we all want. Just trying to help some of the people cope a little bit. But let's not overreact here. I think, to me, I had TJ Sanders as my IDL 6, IDL 7 if you're counting Mason Graham, but I didn't count Mason Graham because this is my Bills specific big board. The only IDL that was on the board that I had above TJ Sanders was Darius Alexander. From a pure talent standpoint, I had TJ Sanders over Joshua Farmer, over Alfred Collins. So it does not shock me. And who knows? Maybe the Bills don't really care about the exterior as much. Maybe they do care about the interior, and they take another defensive tackle in round 3 to really beef up that interior.
Could you imagine if they turn around and then come back in round 3 with like CJ West?
But now we have like less ammo to get that 4th pick in the top 80, and that's that's the one thing that's eating away at me is like, did I have TJ Sanders ranked ahead of a lot of these guys that were still on the board and could have made it to the Buffalo Bills at 56? Yes, but I would have been okay with them knowing it would have given us the ammunition to add a 4th player. That's I think the disappointing thing right now for me.
Yeah, and I think now it's a little tougher to maneuver, right? Because you've given up one of those 4ths. Yes, you still have some of those 5ths, but like those obviously don't carry as much value. Probably less maneuverability now for Beane to move up. There's still a chance, but it would probably be the last move up we could do, I would imagine, unless something else happens.
Let's do a little bit of a look around the league. I know you said Alfred Collins went to San Francisco. It's been a while since we've talked about 49ers the Jets took Mason Taylor, as you said.
Yep.
The 49ers took Alfred Collins. The Cowboys took Donovan Izaraku. I think that's a really good pick for them.
Yep.
The Colts took TJ Tuamalo. Did he mean JT Tuamalo?
Yeah,
JT Tuamalo to the Colts.
And
the Rams are on the clock. So JT Tuamalo is an edge off the board. Donovan Izaraku is an edge off the board. Donovan Izaraku was my 14th ranked player on my Bills big board. He is now off the clock. And JT Tuamalo was my 29th ranked player. He is now off the clock. So the Bills added my 16th ranked player on my Bills specific big board in Maxwell Hairston, and my 22nd ranked player on my Bills specific Bills board in TJ Sanders. So
pretty good.
Not a pretty good haul so far. Like, at the end of the day, we are adding energy, we are adding youth, we are adding violence, we are adding aggressiveness, we are adding playmaking, we are adding pressure. We are adding dogs to this defense. And to me, that's a win. I need more. No, I need some more here. And we talked about this too, right? Like we talked about this on our pre-draft show. We're still going to have that anxiety until like all the picks come in. Like the time between one pick and another pick, we're all still going to be like on the edge of our seats, thinking about what direction they could go next, knowing there are some legitimate holes this team needs to fill.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's totally fair. And I think what's now going to put people like certainly more on edge is the fact that like now we have to wait around until the 3rd round and figure this out. And we don't have those extra 4ths to kind of move back and kind of have those 4 picks, let's say, in the top 100. So like, I get that there's going to be some anxiety with that because it's going to be one less player ultimately that we're going to get.
Another Titan X comes in saying, I mean, they plugged 2 holes. Nice. But the Bills, let's go Buffalo. Bills are electric. I don't know if you're in the chat, but I know you're on Twitter. He came in and he pointed out, and I'm sure others have pointed this out as well, in the midst of doing this show, something slipped by the cracks of the old noggin here. Both Maxwell Hairston and TJ Sanders were top 30 visits for the Buffalo Bills. So that makes it super interesting as we get into round 3. Are they going to add another top 30 visit? And Bills Are Electric on Twitter also points out Jalen Royals, Torrey Horton, Femi Oladejo, Braden Swinson as top 30 visits, and Ty Felton and Pooh Paul as private workouts. So something to consider. And no official visit for Joshua Farmer, but didn't Joshua Farmer come out and say he talks to the Bills, which I think is weird. Why are you talking to the Bills every day? Did he become best friends with the scout? Was this like stepbrothers? They just become best friends? How awkward is that going to be when we don't take Joshua Farmer? They're still going to text every day?
Hey, it's a bad break. It's one of those awkward breakups where
like,
the other
Joshua Farmer's like texting him and he's just, why is he not responding?
It's like, oh man, he just doesn't get it. Doesn't get it.
Eric K comes in and says, any receivers? The 2 top 30 visits, Jalen Royals, Torrey Horton. This is the day for them, probably. Ty Felton. I think most people probably feel more comfortable with Ty Felton in the 4th round. I wouldn't hate him in the 3rd round. He was a private workout. So if we're trying to link Buffalo Bills to a wide receiver, that would be the link that we would probably make and assume over the course of the next couple of rounds here. Justin Tino comes in with a super chat. He says 72 is top third of the 3rd round. Can we trade down and get a 4th and use 2 4ths to get bottom of the 3rd round?
But why would you do that? You already have the top of the 3rd.
That seems to me like some Houston Texans logic right there.
Yeah, I
appreciate you, Justin. To me, I'm probably trying to just keep packing. Like, you don't need 6th and 7th round picks unless you just really want to get a jump start on your priority free agents. How many times from Alex Austin to Rashad Wildgoose to Nick Broker to Jack Anderson?
Nick Broker was the one for me, man.
How many times do we see these like late round picks just bye-bye, like you're gone? So
Rams take tight end Terrence Ferguson.
It's a sneaky good pick for them. But yeah, we chug along here at the Air Raid Hour here on our Cover One pre-draft show. Let's see. Is Terrence Ferguson the only other name that's sort of come off the board here? Cardinals are on the clock.
Cardinals, because we got the Colts. We saw the Colts take JT, and now the Rams were the next pick after that.
I'm going to let you take the wheel here for a second, David. I'm going to start updating some of our graphics so we can use that as a sort of a sounding board for some of these conversations that we're going to have. So take the floor. Let the people know what you're thinking.
Well, I'll say this, right? You got to we're going to start to see what the Bills' plan is in totality here after this 3rd round pick, right? I think we can all, agree generally that the biggest needs for this team were interior defensive line, corner, edge, right? And they've addressed 2 of those positions with these first 2 picks essentially in the top 40 with Maxwell Hairston and TJ Sanders, both guys with really high athletic upside, both guys that you would hope could come in and make meaningful contributions on day one. And I think based on the fact that we needed a corner, based on the fact that the Bills traded up 15 spots in the 2nd round, they're expecting these guys to be big contributors from the jump. The Bills do need an attitude shift on this defense. There's no doubt about it. And I think that both of these guys are definitely guys that can add to that, right, from an attitude standpoint. So, and there you go. You're putting the graphic on the board. TJ Sanders was the 2nd guy on your list there.
So, I mean, if we really look at it too, like guys who could possibly still be in play, if the Bills are looking to add a plugger, right? Get to the 3rd round, the Bills are like, no, we don't need an edge. No, we don't need a wide receiver. Like, we're going to take another defensive tackle. If that is the case, CJ West makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Jordan Phillips makes a lot of sense. Jamari Caldwell makes a lot of sense. So a lot of these guys make sense. I think guys like Ty Robinson probably not making much sense anymore.
Right.
Omar Norman Lott, not really making a lot of sense anymore. Joshua Farmer, Darius Alexander, maybe if they're still there, like the Buffalo Bills are like, cool, they were our plan B and they're still there, however many picks later. So that could be really interesting. And that could be sort of a sounding board in a conversation the Buffalo Bills are having. If we're talking about immediate needs, edge rusher, obviously Michael Hoyt, 6-game suspension. So until Michael Hoyt gets back, it is Gregory Rousseau, it is Joey Bosa, who they have admitted they don't want to give a lot of reps to. They want to rest him for the playoffs. You have Javon Solomon and AJ Panessa. Literally, they don't even have like training camp guys. They don't even have training camp bodies. So if you look here, right, Landon Jackson makes a ton of sense. Nick Skirton makes a ton of sense. I'm going to stop talking about Mike Green because I just don't think it's going to happen. Famiola Dejo makes a ton of sense.
I mean,
I don't
Mike
think Josiah
Green,
Stewart, I don't think Princely Amelia makes sense. Braden Swinson was a top 30 visit. Jordan Birch fits the mold of what the Buffalo Bills look for. Like, so these guys could be in consideration. As much as I hate to say it, a guy like Jack Sawyer could be in play in the third round. I think Ashton Gelati, Kyle Kennard are more day 3 guys, but I put them on the list there just because it made the graphic look prettier and have less white space. And those are the next 2 up. But those guys could all be considered. So if you're looking at edge rusher, to me, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these guys are going to be gone by the time we get to 72, right? Skirton, Jackson.
We know the Bills love Jackson, right? We know they met
Mhm.
with him. Like, he's not going to now make it to the third. And I think the Bills really kind of probably were sitting there thinking, like, is there a chance we can get Landon Jackson at 56 or 62? Maybe, but we really wanted TJ Sanders that much more, and we were willing to risk that. So, again, clearly the Bills valued the interior, regardless of what you think of TJ Sanders as a player, prospect, whatever fit. They clearly valued going up and getting the interior player as opposed to the edge. And I think truly corner and interior defensive line were the 2 Bills' biggest holes, regardless of the fact that they, Ogunjobi's on suspension. I don't think that matters. He was the only meaningful move they made on the interior in the entire free agency period, right? Like, it literally did nothing else, right? It was Ogunjobi and that was it. You had to adjust the interior, not just for 25, but for beyond, right? Daquan Jones not under contract in 26, Ogunjobi here for a 1-year deal. So you're talking about Dwayne Carter, Ed Oliver, and now TJ Sanders as kind of the core potential future of the interior. So you had to address it. And then at corner, obviously, you bring Trey White back for this year to mentor Hairston now. Dane Jackson's here for 1 year. Like, you can now, again, it's like a changing of the guard or a transition period without having to expect these guys to do it all on their own, right? You've got people that can mentor them. Daquan Jones now to come in and mentor TJ Sanders. You got Trey White to mentor Maxwell Hairston. I think it's a really good environment for these guys to come into. And I think that the Bills have addressed their 2 biggest needs with these first 2 picks, because I don't think signing a Trey White or signing an Ogunjobi change anything about the Bills' perspective beyond 2025 as far as who they were going to draft. So I think it's a good, so far it's good. And they've got the guys in the building to kind of help these guys along. So this 3rd round pick now becomes really interesting. I agree with you. I think a lot of these edge guys probably could be gone by then. And so then what does the 3rd round become? A bit of a wild card then from a positional standpoint? Could it be a Makuba? Could it be a wide receiver, right? Like, we just don't know. It's going to be really, I mean, we've got now about 30, little less than 30 picks, right? Or about 30 picks until the Bills pick again. So
taking a look at the last thing now, some other wild cards here. And I haven't seen who's been off the board the last couple of picks, so I don't know. But there are a couple of guys, right? Xavier Watts, to me, clearly makes sense. Andrew Makuba, I think, makes a ton of sense as a post safety. Kevin Winston Jr. is like a very Billsy type of pick in terms of like a guy who was injured, kind of didn't really play a lot in 2024, a guy who looked like he was ascending into like a 1st round level, like talent in 2023 before that injury. So a guy like Kevin Winston Jr., I feel a lot more, comfortable with Kevin Winston Jr. in the box than I do as a post player, but people I trust think the ceiling is there for him to be an all-around split safety, which is obviously what the Buffalo Bills covet. And then Billy Bowman Jr., who's got historically short arms, like 4th percentile arm length for a safety. But the Buffalo Bills had a dinner with him before his pro day. A lot of people say Jordan Poyer is the comp for a guy like Billy Bowman, so that could be interesting. But you have an update you want to share with us here?
The drop has stopped for Will Johnson. He goes to the Arizona Cardinals.
That's a great pick for them. That's a great pick. That took them a while to get that pick in, but that's a really, really good. They have added Walter Nolan and Will Johnson. That's awesome for them, man. Jonathan Gannon is going to have some fun with those guys. I really like what Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon are doing there in Arizona. playing with a hand tied behind their back with Kyler Murray as your quarterback, in my opinion, but making the most of it. So that is a really good 1-2 haul for them, taking advantage of the injury. And
what are your in-laws and family over there think of Kyler Murray? Your Arizona people there,
they can't stand him. Like
really?
Like they.
We got a trade. Houston Texans on the clock now.
Yeah, they really. He's just so limited, right? Like you have to steal a saying from Russell Wilson. Josh Allen is the true Mr. Unlimited, right? Like you just have so many options at your disposal. You can, and the thing with Kyler is like Kyler just does not play under center well. Like, and as much as you try to get him under center, he doesn't play under center well. Kyler doesn't see the middle of the field well. No matter how much you want to, he doesn't see the middle of the field well. Kyler, for all his athleticism, doesn't want to scramble. Like, why don't you want to scramble? You're a natural runner. Like,
and he did early on, and like he kind of just stopped doing it.
Kyler so badly wants to be something he's not, and obviously there's all the drama around the video games and the numbers dropping when Call of Duty comes out, and the 0 minutes logged on his iPad and the tracking of the like. There's all that stuff that goes along with it as well. I don't dislike Kyler. You have to create an environment around him for him to be successful. Whereas like Josh Allen is the environment. We're just so spoiled here with Josh Allen. Like it's insane. I'm not looking forward to the day where we have to talk quarterback again. It's not going to be fun.
I probably will quit before.
Yeah.
The day Josh Allen retires from the Bills, I think I retire from
podcasting.
From podcasting. I mean, that could be 10, 15 years from now.
I'm sure Kyler Murray could beat Josh Allen in Call of Duty. I'm looking over some scouting reports here. I got Scout D NFL. I've got his scouting report on TJ Sanders up, and it's really intriguing. He writes the strengths of TJ Sanders. Sanders is a well-rounded lineman with a functional athlete with solid power at the point of attack. He generates good pop with his hands. That's something I've seen in multiple scouting reports now, the violence in the hands, and uses them effectively as a weapon. His versatility allows him to line up in multiple spots, and he consistently shows strong on-field awareness with a knack for making plays. His weaknesses, kind of what we talked about. He's a bit of an in-betweener in terms of ideal position fit and will need to develop a more refined and consistent pass rush plan. Bottom line, Sanders has the technical foundation, athleticism, and instincts to develop into a productive and versatile defensive lineman. To me, why am I blanking on his name? Ryan Nielsen. This is like, have some, like, you know how we had faith in Aaron Cromer? I know he's not technically the defensive lineman position coach, but maybe we got to have a little bit of faith in Ryan Nielsen here. Like maybe Ryan Nielsen was a guy who had a legitimate say in this pick. Like, you have that kind of experience in the room. The guy who's worked with the defensive line groups that he's worked with, the guy who's coached the defensive line groups that he's coached, a guy that Trey Hendrickson credits for saving and transforming his career. You got a guy in that room. I'm guessing they're using him as a resource. And I'm guessing he was brought into the conversations. I'm guessing that he was a part of the tape watching and all those various different things. So, you know, pulling my best Chris Brown here to try to maybe oversell a little bit. I do think, like, have a little faith there too. If you're a Bills fan, and again, I'm trying to oversell a guy who doesn't need to be oversold. He's a good football player, but have a little bit of faith, I think, in Ryan Nielsen, and knowing he probably had a pretty solid hand in making the selection.
Agreed. That certainly would have influence, and the Texans take Ursary. So that's interesting. Yep. So they needed offensive line. Texans, guess what? Like, you just trade, I don't get, I also don't really get what they're doing, to be honest. Like, the trade they made before the draft to get, like, they gave up like 2/5. It was such a weird, it was so weird to me, but whatever, that's fine. Take a tackle. And now it looks like we've got the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock, an AFC.
That's looking to rework their defensive line, willing to reworking their safety group, their corner group, like pretty much anything on defense. They have Notre Dame's defensive coordinator now. What's his name? The former Miami coach, Al Golden, is their defense coordinator. This is Xavier Watts all day, dude. This is Xavier Watts.
Oh my God, it has to be, right?
He's coming off the board. He's coming off the board here. He's got to be.
I kind of hate that. I hate that these safeties are going to, like,
teams that we are competing against in the playoffs. Yeah, not fun.
Yes. The Ravens and the Bengals, at least they can beat up on each other in the division. But man, that has to be right. I mean, it would make too much sense.
Yeah, I put a post out on X today. I kind of want to revisit that post real quick. I said one of the biggest philosophical questions regarding the Bills that we could have answered tonight is regarding the archetype at interior defensive line. Do they want a plugger with limited 3-down ability, but makes Ed Oliver, Terrell Bernard the best versions of themselves? Or do they continue to focus on penetrators with 1-tech, 3-tech versatility? If we take Alfred Collins, CJ West, Jamar Caldwell, we may have our answer one way. If they lean Darius Alexander or TJ Sanders, we may have our answer the other way. Layers to everything, though, as how the board falls will likely dictate the final decision. At the end of the day, the way the board fell did not dictate the decision. The Bills traded up and got the guy they wanted outside of Tyleik Williams in TJ Sanders. So they answered that philosophical question today. They showed us what they value.
Yep, they absolutely did. And look, I mean, they also answered again the two positions that we all were clamoring for leading up to the draft, right? So it's like, okay, like this is why it's like very hard like to convince yourself to look outside of just like one or two guys that you love and like really kind of open it up to think about like multiple guys at that position that this team needs to address. And like, yeah, I mean, if for the people who watched our show, they knew, I mean, we talk about TJ Sanders a lot leading up to the draft and certainly thought he could be a Bills pick. Eric did film work on him. Anthony did film work on him, and we'll get, I'm sure, their reaction shows later tonight. And, Eric was taking some flack today for pointing out flaws in Maxwell Hairston's game. He'll point out the flaws in TJ Sanders' game, and that's just part of the process, right? In evaluating these guys, you do have to point out their flaws and
Charles G, you're right. You don't take a run plug with a tough D. I 100% agree with that. Like I said, I'm not even mad at the pick. Like, if we would have stayed at 56, I would have taken the plugger. I think 56 would have been an okay place to take the plugger. And then we would have had more picks in the top 100, especially if we could have traded back into that third round. That's just, again, I think every fan feels this emotion, right? When the Bills take a pick, it's like they took a guy. I like the guy. I support it. But what were the alternatives? What else could we have done? That always sticks in your mind a little bit, always sticks in your craw a little bit. So again, that's what this show is all about. Like, we are just workshopping, we're brainstorming, we're throwing things out there. I think out loud, which also tends to get me in a lot of trouble. But that's what we're doing here. That's all tonight is one big giant mental exercise. So thank you for your input. I really appreciate that, and everyone in the comment sections input. And Tyleik would have been interesting. Tyleik would have been real interesting if he had gotten to pick 30.
I'll put it to you this way, right? Would you have rather had like a
Tyleik and Trey Amos?
But I mean, if Trey Amos, looks like he probably will make it to pick 52.
Yeah.
Would you have rather had a Tyleik Trey Amos combo, or would you rather have a Maxwell Hairston TJ Sanders combo? I think a lot of people would have said Tyleik and Trey Amos, but Tyleik was not an option for the Bills at pick 30, which obviously threw them a little bit for the loop as the Bengals do not take Xavier Watts and take Demetrius Knight Jr., the linebacker from South Carolina, TJ Sanders.
Wow.
Teammate there. So
I don't like, I'm sorry. Like, how many picks are we in now? That was pick what? Pick
49.
There's not 49 players better in this draft than Xavier Watts. I don't care about positional value. Like, I will die on this hill, man. I will die on it. There are not 49 players in this draft better than Xavier Watts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you at
if
all.
he gets to 72, man.
Can you imagine?
I know we need some other positions, but whew. Oh, man. Charles G says maybe the Bills fans overvalue Trey Amos. I feel like a lot of the national media was jumping on Trey Amos the last couple of months too. So
they really were. The film was good on him. I mean, he's smooth. Yes, he had some issues, some misdiagnosis, some diagnosis problems, but solid floor. Okay, Seattle's pick is already in apparently, so we're on to officially at pick 50 of the NFL draft right now. So we're about halfway through to where it ends tonight, which I believe is at pick 102 is the last pick of the evening tonight. So Seahawks on the clock. I like what Seattle's doing so far in this draft. I question a little bit about their offseason generally and leading up to this point and kind of what they were doing, going out getting Darnold, Gino's gone, getting rid of DK, bringing in Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett's gone. Like, I don't know. Seattle's kind of weird, but I like what they're doing in the draft. I'll say that, independent of whatever they did prior to this. I do like what they're doing in the draft.
Let's take a look at my Bills specific big board here. The number one player left on my big board is Mike Green. Again, I don't think anyone wants to touch him at this point.
I mean, at this point, no one's touching him, right?
It's no one's touching him. Xavier Watts is the second player on my big board. Those are still two tier 1 Bills specific big board players available. Looking at the second tier, Trey Amos, we've already took a corner. Darius Alexander, we've already taken a corner. Everyone, I think, who listens to this show knows I'm very high on Josiah Stewart. Might not be an archetype fit for the Buffalo Bills. He is 19th on my big board. Kyle Williams, natural separator at receiver. He's 20. Nicholas Skirton is still on the board. That's a defensive end that I think fits the mold of what the Buffalo Bills like. And if he makes it to 72, or maybe the Buffalo Bills try another little bit of a trade up to get a guy like Nick Skirton, he is there. Benjamin Morrison, we've already taken a corner. Andrew Makuba, again, how much do we value? Trying to fill maybe a 2026 need. Landon Jackson, edge 6. I think Landon Jackson and Nick Skirton could be the real conversation here. Femi Oladejo obviously falls into that conversation as well. If we are looking at purely 2025 needs, Skirton, Jackson, Oladejo, they're the ones I think that really stick out to me. You can maybe even throw Braden Swinson in there because the Bills did meet with him.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I would like pull the comments section and like say like if it was Landon Jackson or give him 3 options and see like would you be if Landon Jackson made it all the way to the 3rd round of the Bills pick and a lot of people didn't were like vomiting at the idea of Landon Jackson at pick 30, but at pick 70 whatever, that's a whole different story, right? So I would be pretty happy with that if he made it all the way around to the Bills pick here in the 3rd. Landon Jackson, elite athlete. TJ Sanders, elite athlete. Max Hairston, elite athlete. That would be, I think, a pretty solid first 3 picks if it ended up that way.
Interesting comments from Joe Biscaglia too. Just to keep going back to TJ. Every time I see something interesting, I'm going to go back to TJ Sanders a little bit as we go along here. Joe B actually mocked TJ Sanders to the Bills in his last mock draft in the 2nd round, and he said, I think this is an outstanding fit for the Bills, one they could even move up to make on Friday, which the Buffalo Bills ultimately ended up doing. Sanders, with his strength at the point of attack, his run defending abilities, his arm length, and how he could grow into a one-technique role while maintaining 3-down ability as a penetrating pass rusher is an ideal solution. The 6'3", 305 Sanders has an arm length of 33.25 inches and shows an all-around skill set to eventually become a starter in Buffalo. And the last part here is what really has me intrigued from Joe Biscaglia's commentary here. In the meantime, getting him closer to 310 or 315 pounds would make him an ideal solution as a long-term answer after Daquan Jones. I don't think anyone's going to argue at his length that he can't bulk up to maybe being like a Dalvin Tomlinson size at 6'4", 310, 315. He didn't start playing football till his junior year of high school. So even from like a bulking perspective, he's probably a little bit behind. So yes, maybe is he a little bit out of sorts in his first couple of years, but he could have a chance to really grow into it in an NFL weight room. So that is an intriguing comment from Joe B that I really liked as well.
Yeah, I think Joe B did a good job with that. As
he always does, by the way. The Bills content creator of the mainstream content creators who speaks the least. When he does speak, I listen. I love Joe B.
Yeah, he is not a volume tweeter. He's not a volume guy, but when he puts stuff out, it's very detailed, very thorough. I trust him as the Seahawks take Elijah Arroyo, the tight end from Miami. A lot of people thought
all the tight ends could come off the board. Let's do it.
Yeah, a lot of people had him as a top 3-ish tight end in this class. So Seattle, it's kind of been an interesting position for them. The Russell Wilson trade, they got Noah Fant, didn't do a ton. Kind of like, tight end purgatory there in Seattle. So we'll see if maybe with Sam Darnold.
The Panthers have traded up to the Broncos spot.
Yes. And the Broncos are out of the second round now, it looks like.
Yeah.
So they might have got a pretty good haul for that pick.
Panthers traded 57, 74, 111, and 230 for 51, 84, 122, and 208. So they just moved back 6 spots.
Okay, so the Broncos are still.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, now they updated it. Broncos are at 57. Got it. I see it now. Yeah, I mean, good for the Broncos if they didn't really have anything there.
Carolina took who did Carolina take some at the top of the round? Did they have a pick at the top of the round? Oh no, they didn't. They traded it for that's the last of the Bryce Young trade. So this is Carolina's second pick after Ted McMillan, huh?
Yes. Yep.
So probably a pass rusher here, since that's what everyone thought they were going to do in the first round.
I mean, yeah, probably.
Another receiver.
what if the Panthers pull the trigger on Mike Green? Just say off-field issues be damned for taking him.
That'd be interesting. Shador Sanders to the Panthers to compete.
Oh my God. Who is this coming out? Is that
Nick Skirton to the Panthers? So we have a legitimate edge rusher that was on the Bills board, now off the board in Nick Skirton out of Texas A&M. He's a guy who was a double-digit sack guy at Purdue, transferred to Texas A&M. Just a graveyard, right? Like between Shamar Stewart and Nick Skirton, it's like, how are there so many, even Shamar Turner, it's like, how are there so many talented guys on that defensive line? And they're not just assaulting the quarterback down after down after down. And the answer was that Mike Elko values like setting the edge, setting a hard edge and doing the run defending things and not pinning your ear backs and not over pursuing and not doing that kind of risk taking. So it really knocked down a lot of these Texas A&M defensive linemen's production, to the point where, Shamar Turner, who many people thought maybe could have been a top 10 pick after, transferring, or Nick Skirton, who many people thought could be a fringe first round talent. Shamar Stewart didn't drop that far, and
right.
Nick Skirton drops in the second round. So it'll be interesting to see if he can recalibrate that pass rush production now that he's out of that Texas A&M system. But a legitimate edge rusher for the Bills off the board, along with JT Tuamala, who went earlier.
Yeah, I think that's a worthwhile selection for the Panthers. You see their war room now cheering at that. Like, they got to figure that out. Like, they obviously traded Brian Burns to the Giants and try to get some of that capital back from losing out all that they did on the Bryce Young trade. And now, like, obviously officially the Bryce Young trade has come to a close on that pick that they didn't have at the top of this round. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think that you go back to Purdue, right, with Skirton, and kind of you're hanging your head on that if you're the Carolina Panthers, saying that is the Nick Skirton that you're hoping that you can develop in your system. But the Panthers obviously have a long way to go to being competitive. Femi Oladejo to the Titans. It's the next pick.
So now the edge rusher. So interesting, right? So now the edge rusher. And let me update our graphic real quick, and then we'll get it up. But now the edge rusher run might be starting here. So let's have a conversation about that. And if you're the Buffalo Bills, sitting at pick 72, I don't know, Dave, maybe could you look into what it would take to start getting back up into this range if you're the Buffalo Bills and you really want to add an edge rusher? This is where it's starting to get thin. Let's say theoretically Mike Green is off the board. Mm-hmm. Now there's one guy left in that second bucket, Landon Jackson, a guy who the Buffalo Bills are pretty familiar with, right? Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. And then you go to that second bucket, Josiah Stewart, smaller guy, maybe has some issues setting the edge. Princely Emilion, smaller guy, might have some issues. Princely Emilion is just allergic to run stopping. Like I watched some Ole Miss tape. He loves to get to the quarterback. He's pretty darn good at it, as good as anyone in this class, up there with the James Pierces of the world. Not a very willing set the edge guy. You have Braden Swinson, who is, I don't know, like maybe he could be a set the edge guy. He certainly tries, but he's certainly closer to the size of some of those bendier guys than he is to the Landon Jacksons of the world.
Yeah, so the Rich Hill trade chart, the Bills now with pick 72 is valued at 67, and they obviously don't have 109 anymore, but they do have 132, which is valued at 18. So that's 85 points. 85 points essentially gets them back to where they were at pick 62. 86 points gets them to pick 61 with Washington. So it gets them, if they were to trade their third and now they're only remaining fourth, they could get back into the third at pick 61 potentially. with Washington. That's just based on equivalent value, right? Not saying Washington would do that, but that's about where you're looking, essentially back to where they would have been picking with their second round picks, with trading their third and now their later fourth to get back up if they were so inclined. So yeah, I mean, probably doesn't seem likely if you kind of lost value, let's say, and you wanted to move back up, you could. The pick right after them, they're not going to trade with Kansas City, probably. That's worth 82. And then the last pick with Philadelphia is pick 64. That's worth 80 points. So that would be a net -5 on the value chart, 80 to 85, if the Eagles were willing to trade the 64th pick. But then otherwise, you start the third round there at pick 65. So, yeah, I don't know. So the Bills right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have the 8th pick in the third round.
2 edge rushers back to back. That one stings a little bit. Yeah, Xavier Watt's still on the board. Trey Amos still on the board. That surprises me. Darius Alexander on the board. That still surprised me. None of the other names like really stick out as shocking to me. They're still on the board.
Yeah, because my Green is not there because of things off the field, so it's not necessarily a surprise, right? Maybe Norman Lott. Did he get picked? No, he didn't get picked.
No, he has not gotten picked yet. No.
So maybe that's one. Kevin Winston maybe is one. But yeah, Amos, Winston, Watts, Morrison, Revel. I mean, he hasn't been picked yet. Siobhan Revel. Shedeur Sanders. So look, I mean, at this point, you kind of hope teams start taking corners, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're hoping if you're the Bills, because like you're obviously not going to take one. So like some of these edge guys going off the board is a bit of a bummer, right? You kind of want to see guys like Revel and Amos and Morrison maybe start to come off the board. So some of these picks before the Bills get back into it at pick 72, we're now 20 picks away from the Bills' next pick.
Just 20?
Yeah, just 20.
Oh, man. It could not come soon enough.
What am I saying? Yeah, because they're 72 and they're at 53, so 19. So Buccaneers select, and there you go, folks. Benjamin Morrison to the Buccaneers. A corner goes off the board. So that's what we kind of want to see right now, I think, is we want to see corners go off the board and any other like really offensive position, I think, go off the board.
Jalen Milroe is still in the green room.
Poor guy.
Dude.
Why was he even invited to the green room?
I don't know. The Steelers said maybe they'll take him. As you can see, my headphones just broke. So
like if I was a guy like that and I like knew there was like a pretty legitimate chance I wasn't going to get picked in the first round, like I would not go.
Yeah,
I would not go. But hey, I'll never be in that position. So hey, yeah, all good. Do what you got to do. So yeah, the Bucs take Ben Morrison, the corner from Notre Dame. Guy that went through an injury at the end of 2024. Yeah, go ahead.
I had him right after TJ Sanders. I had him as my 23rd on my Bills big board, but obviously no longer a position of immediate need, even though we would love, I think, the Buffalo Bills to double dip.
Yeah, I think we would have loved the Bills to double dip if they, maybe still had both their fourth rounders. And I think now it becomes less of a priority.
There are a couple of options later on in the draft from like a Jalen Smith. Let me pull up my big board here. To a Caleb Ransaw. To a Robert Lagerbein.
Mm-hmm.
They could play the boundary. Some of them could play in nickel. Some of them could even kick to safety. So I think if you're the Bills now, maybe you're not looking for just like a traditional boundary guy. You're looking for a little bit of versatility. So let me go to my corner specific board here on my spreadsheet. We can sort of talk through this together here, right? You have Tommy Hill, who I think could play nickel, outside corner, safety. He he had a
He's like
really
the Darren.
bad.
He's
He
like
had a
the Darren
really
Hall this year.
yeah.
I think.
He had a really bad senior season because he played through plantar fasciitis, and apparently he had a really bad Senior Bowl too. But if the medicals go through on him, and you think you're going to get what you saw 2 years ago, Tommy Hill is a versatile guy late. They met with Robert Longerbeam. The thing about Robert Longerbeam is like they say at Rutgers, like he was the glue guy on that team. Like he was like just fits the mold of like what Greg Schiano looks like a football player. And he was just like the heart and soul of that football team. Undersized, but played the boundary, really undersized. I can pull up his mock draftable in a moment. I'm talking like in the 170s, small dude. But people are talking about him as possibly like a nickel guy, even though he played boundary at Rutgers. And he seems character wise like he would line up with the Buffalo Bills. Like Darian Porter with his special teams ability, could Darian Porter, if he's like the way cornerbacks are slipping here, could Darian Porter be a 4th-round pick? Now you have some special teams value with Darian Porter. Like could be an elite special teamer plus depth backup.
Yeah.
Right? Like Darian Porter could be a possibility. And then the other guy, like I said, was Caleb Ransaw. Boundary, nickel, flex. Jacob Parrish, boundary, nickel, flex. Heck, maybe even Jacob Parrish could get some looks at safety. Like there are some, I think, guys who could move around and be a little bit more versatile that could still be in play if the Bills are looking at double dip. I don't think it'll like it could be, but I don't think it'll be like an O'Donnell Fortune, who's just a pure boundary zone corner. Now, if we're in the 7th round and we're just like we want to add a body for camp, maybe then it's O'Donnell Fortune. But like if we're gonna make a 4th or a 3rd or a 5th-round investment, I think we're going to look for some versatility there.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now with like your flexibility as far as picks are concerned is lower, then you don't necessarily have the luxury to just kind of keep throwing as many darts as you want, right? You have to be a little more selective with that, and that makes a lot of sense to me with what you're saying. So, Parrish, I like him. I mean, I think I'll say it. I think like even though he's a safety, I think Makuba, he gives you flexibility at the safety position, even though he's not necessarily going to play.
Wasn't he an overhang nickel at Clemson? So he was a nickel. He was a nickel at Clemson, and then he got to center field at Texas, and that really like opened some eyes to him. So there's some versatility there in Andrew Makuba as a guy who like could be a Taron Johnson backup, could be a safety backup. I don't know if he's got the size to play special teams, but like Cam Lewis plays special teams well, and Cam Lewis doesn't have size. So maybe if you're looking to replace a guy like Cam Lewis, raise the ceiling from Cam Lewis. A guy like Andrew.
And I gotta give the Wolfpack shout here. My guy Anthony Belton just got drafted.
Packers? That's such a Packers pick.
From NC State. He was definitely the best prospect from NC State in this draft this year. But once again, NC State putting some guys in the NFL year after year. Like to see it. Anthony Belton, that dude is massive, by the way. Like that, he's just like NC State with Dave Doran. I can't stand Dave Doran, by the way, as an NC State guy. But the dude can recruit some offensive linemen, like big boys. Like you want a big athletic guy on the offensive line, you can look at NC State's program and do pretty well looking there. So Belton to the Packers, I thought this made sense. I thought they could go tackle in the 1st round. They went with Matthew Golden because they've got Rasheed Walker, I think, slotted in as their left tackle right now. So they get Anthony Belton probably as their heir apparent left tackle. So I like it. Big fan.
All right. So there's a conversation that we've put off all off season. And I'm scrolling through Twitter here and I see Joe B just tweeted like under 20 picks out from the Bills at 72. Some players I have my eye on. One of those players was Marcus Mabau out of Purdue, who plays. Do you know what position he plays, Dave? I know we didn't do a lot of research on this. Marcus Mabau.
It's got to be linebacker or offensive line, right?
Offensive line, baby, out of Purdue. So the morning of the draft, I took the day off of work because I wanted to put some finishing touches on our preparation and stuff. And some of the position groups I started diving into was offensive line because we're openly admitting here that we did not look at any offensive linemen in this pre-draft process. We only got so much time. We only got so much energy. This is a hobby for us. Didn't really look at a lot of offensive linemen. So I did some research and tried to pull out some offensive linemen I thought the Buffalo Bills would like. Tate Rutledge is there from Georgia. He's still on the board. He's right guard only, so I don't think the Bills will go with there. Interesting pick off the board here.
Chargers take Trey Harris, wide receiver from Ole Miss.
That's a good pick for them. I think Justin Herbert will have fun with him. It's kind of a Josh Palmer type of replacement, man separator.
Yeah.
size, but not like the speediest guy in the world. That's a nice little Josh Palmer replacement there. But Marcus Mabau, like, so I had some guys high on my list, and I took them off because I'm like, yeah, they're not. But I willed it down to like 5 or 6 guys. Marcus Mabau out of Purdue, Charles Grant out of William and Mary, Wyatt Millam out of West Virginia, Chase Lunt out of UConn, Joshua Gray out of Oregon State, and Bryce Cabledew out of Kansas. Those are the handful of the 6 guys I whittled it down to, based on like what the consensus is saying. Some guys who could be in play if the Buffalo Bills do decide to go offensive line, interior offensive line. And the reason why they would do that is because Connor McGovern's in a contract year. David Edwards is in a contract year. So Alec Anderson would be a traditional restricted free agent next year. Charles Grant is more of a tackle, but he could kick inside. Wyatt Millam was a tackle at West Virginia, could kick inside. That's the theme I really looked for. Guys who are in that Bills like 6'6", 6'7", 305-pound range. That seems to be the sweet spot for the Buffalo Bills. And a lot of these guys sort of fit that mold. So Marcus Mabau could be in play here. Charles Grant from William & Mary could be in play here. Wyatt Millam from West Virginia could possibly be in play here as well.
I mean, I think that all of that makes sense. There's always going to be, like, once you get out of like the second round, as you start to get into the third, I feel like there's always going to be guys that were like, I feel like it happens in the third round every year for the Bills where they're like, what? You're like, why did they take that position? Or why did they take that guy? It was like Terrell Bernard, right? A couple years ago. It was not necessarily Dwayne Carter, but it was like Terrell Bernard. And like, we take these guys in the third round. And you're like, why are they taking these guys? And like, maybe there is a surprise tonight in the third round, like you're mentioning. So would be, yeah, I'm not ruling anything out at this point. So
the Bears have made a selection. Now we got to run off the lineman though. So you had Anthony Belton go to the Packers, and now you have Ozzie Trapilo from Boston College, the tackle, going to the Bears. So the Bears, Ben Johnson's loading up on offense. By the way, adding a receiver, adding a tight end, adding an offensive tackle, some tackle depth there. He'll be the Dan Skipper catching some touchdowns maybe for this Chicago Bears offense at this rate. So Titan X comes in and says running back. There's a guy. If the Bills do decide to go wild card here, I said that there were 2 guys in the morning of research the literal morning of research I did on these 2 position groups. There were 2 guys that I said, if the Buffalo Bills were going to go offensive line or running back, these are the 2 guys that I think the Buffalo Bills could consider. The first was Travion Henderson, who went with the first pick of the second round. Or not the first pick of the second round, but went very early in the second round. Mm-hmm. He is a guy who I legitimately think is a very Billsy type of, he can catch the ball in the backfield, he can pass block, he's got home run speed. If you are looking to replace James Cook because you want to trade James Cook and you feel like you're not going to get anything out of James Cook this year because of a holdout, or he's not going to be engaged or focused, and you just got to get that out of your locker room. For months, like in the back of my mind, I was like, well, it's Travion Henderson. He's the one guy. But I really do, and I'm stalling here because I'm trying to pull it up. There is a second guy I think that could go somewhere on third round, fourth round, that could be a legitimate plug-and-play option at running back, and that is Dylan Sampson out of the University of Tennessee. And just let me pull up the notes that I have on him really quickly. Sorry, I've been tweeting so much about Maxwell Hairston that it is just now buried down my list of
Broncos trade with the Lions. While you're looking that up, they traded number 57 overall and number 230 overall, which is a 7th round pick to the Lions for 60 and 1/3. Wow, they moved down 3 spots and picked up a 4th for a 7th. So that's a nice move for the Broncos.
By Chance comes in and says Bishal Tootin from Virginia Tech. He was your my guy at running back. And don't get me wrong, like I like Tootin a lot, but I have concerns about whether his fumbling issues is what scares me the most.
Yes.
But the thing about Tootin is you have a kick returner from day one. You have that explosive speed to develop. and all those various different things. So Tootin's interesting. I think Dylan Sampson and the way he produced in the SEC this year, he looks like James Cook running the ball, and he's really good out of the backfield. I think Dylan Sampson from Tennessee is interesting. And then the other guy is Jarquez Hunter out of Auburn, who was almost your guy
He was
at
almost
running back. And there were some really intriguing things that I saw out of Jarquez Hunter if we are going to take a running back semi-early in this draft. 5'9", 204, 4'4", 40. He led the SEC with 6.4 yards per carry in 2024. He had 32% avoided tackle rate, which was RB5 in this draft. 4.10 yards after contact per rush, which is RB9 in this draft. 22.6 of his runs went for 10 plus yards, RB2 in this draft. He actually did kick coverage at Auburn and had 10 tackles over the course of his career. And he has kick return experience as well. So if the Bills are looking for a like jack of all trades, speed, home run speed, eventually replace James Cook type of running back, you could probably find a role for Jarquez Hunter in the backfield and keeping 4 because of his versatility. There are other names the comment section is throwing out, like Brashard Smith. I wouldn't touch him until day 3. LaQuinn Allen, he's a round 6 or 7 guy for me. His lack of breakaway speed. I'm all the way out on Jaden Blue, by the way. Like, I've looked into some of the advanced stuff on Jalen Blue. All of his runs are to the outside. He's not very strong. Like, he's got the breakaway speed, but he's got fumbling issues. To me, like, I don't like those guys who just got one trait. And I feel like Jaden Blue is just a guy with like one trait. Trevor Etienne is on my list. So let me just go through my running back board. These are the running backs I whittled it down to. Travion Henderson, who's gone. Dylan Sampson, Bishal Tootin, Jordan James, Jarquez Hunter, Trevor Etienne, and Brashard Smith. I had some honorable mentions for Taj Brooks, Kyle Monangai, and LaQuinn Allen, if like we're just taking a flyer late. But those were some of the running backs that I had on my list.
Yeah, I like those. I mean, and this is the thing now too. It's like you don't have the 2/4. Like you gotta think about this now logically. Like this running back you take, you're pretty much, if you take a guy like that, you're probably saying you're gonna have 4 running backs on the roster, right? Like, I mean, that's, I know they used to do that with Tywan Jones as a special teamer, and I get that, but do you really want to do that?
Raiders made their pick, Jack Besh.
Yep.
Lions made what a Lions pick here. Tate Rutledge. That's a really good pick for them in the second.
Yeah,
round.
Lions. That was Denver's pick originally. Denver traded the great trade for Denver. They moved just down 3 spots and picked up a 4th rounder and gave up a 7th.
They really wanted Tate Rutledge. And that Tate Rutledge with that mullet fits Detroit. So
yeah, I mean Tate Rutledge, like that's a Dan Campbell dude for
two
sure.
guys that were not on my Bill specific board though, just for the fact that like Tate Rutledge. Too early for my blood for an interior offensive lineman where he was projected to go. Jack Besh, like any other year, I'd be pounding the table for Jack Besh. But here's my issue with Jack Besh, right? The targets that Jack Besh was going to get are the targets you want Dalton Kincaid to get.
Yeah.
That's like what Jack Besh would have been for our offense is what we need Dalton Kincaid to be for our offense. So to me, you cannot take away those opportunities for Dalton Kincaid. He's got to live up to that draft pick. I think he has a potential to live up to that draft pick. So a receiver like in that Jack Besh mold was just never going to be it for me, despite the fact that like any other year I'd be pounding the table for a player like that. Like he can condense the formations, play in that like Sean McVay style and that like Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua role close to the line of scrimmage. He can go on the boundary if you need him. He can be an inline blocker. Like he can just do everything. And he can go up and get it at the catch point. He can run block, like just everything. Like Jack Besh is just a workhorse type of dude. And I think they have Brock Bowers there now in Las Vegas. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all marries itself out there in the desert.
Yeah. I mean, the Vegas has Bowers and they have got Jacoby Myers, right? Obviously we know they got Genty. Like you need a really more of like a speed downfield threat at wide receiver. And so I don't know how Besh is going to integrate in with him. We'll see what Pete Carroll has in mind there, but closing in here on the 60th pick, the Ravens are on the clock now with pick 59. And we'll see what they do. Obviously they seem to have a good draft every single year from what we recall. They obviously got Starks earlier yesterday, and now we'll see what they do with this pick. But we're almost to the end here of the second round. Pick 64 will be the last pick in the second round, and then the countdown's on. until the Bills pick at 72. So there's still a good number of decent guys. Trey Amos still available.
Mhm.
Landon Jackson still available. It's very interesting. Some of the guys
Savone
that
Rebel hasn't gone yet.
Sean Revel hasn't gone yet. Not that the Bills want him now. We would like to see Norman Lott get picked somewhere. Xavier Watts still hasn't been picked yet. So Darius Alexander hasn't been picked yet. Umami Ellen Princely hasn't been picked yet. So some guys out there that still haven't been picked yet. And yeah, we'll see what happens here with the Bills here coming up in about 15 picks or so from now.
Still no Shadur Sanders drafted. I know this isn't a
it would
dude,
just be
there's just an image going around of Dion, Shiloh, and Shadur now like outside watching the draft on a laptop in like their backyard, and they just look sad.
Don't worry, Mike Tomlin's going to come in and save the day and pick them in the 3rd round. There you go.
The Ravens are on the clock. Watch them get like Savone Rebel here or AZ Thomas or
Revel seems like a Ravens type pick, doesn't it?
I'm trying to think like what, like corner they could use. They could use another pass rusher, maybe some more beef up front. So I don't know. Like, let's see. Why don't they just take Xavier Watts, just play a little 3 safety look, just completely crush my dreams. Watch Mike Green go to Baltimore here. Trey Amos.
They wouldn't be Darius a team that would be
Darius Alexander.
They wouldn't be afraid to take Mike Green. I don't think.
Break my heart and they'll break my heart. Take Darius Alexander. Landon Jackson could be a fit for Baltimore here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, he kind of could fill that like Calais Campbell role that they used.
Jacob Parrish seems like a very Ravensy kind of guy.
Revel to me seems definitely a Ravensy type of guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Princely, if they just want a pure pass rusher, got to get after the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see when the pick comes in here. Mike Green to the Ravens.
There you go.
The number 1 player on my Bills specific big board is, dude, they added Malachi Starks and Mike Green. They went
full Eagles.
I kid you not. Dave, I don't know if you had a chance to see my Buffalo Bills specific draft board, but my 1 and 2 were Mike Green and Malachi Starks.
Oh, no. And they go to the Ravens. Oh, man. 1 and 2. Both
pain.
To the Ravens. That's pain. But you know what? I'm going to try to just push it way, way down like Peter does in Office Space. You can push it way down.
Yeah, the Ravens got the 1 and the 2, the first and the second best player on my Bill specific billboard. The Bills got 16 and 22. So Havana says, see the Ravens just picked Did you see that? So there was an image today of someone built a spreadsheet, like a spatter chart of where teams selected this year based off of like the consensus big board.
Oh, yeah.
All the teams are like
great
the chart or the Cowboys are way down the bottom because like they way overdrafted Booker, and then everyone else is kind of in the middle. And at the very top, you just had the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Eagles.
Yes, they were all like steals. All of them were like steals.
Yeah,
it's just like, God, man, every freaking time
they just make the chalk picks, like the consensus picks. So.
Yeah, and that doesn't always work out, but man, it seems like at the time you're getting the value, absolute great value. I mean, 1 and 2 on your board. I mean, what are the chances of that both going to the same team? I mean, it's just silly.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna like pull up that big board and shoot out a tweet in a second here because that's just too funny. Like
then
unbelievable.
Yeah, Bills would never draft Mike Green. Too many off the field. It's like, okay, like I get it. Like we're just having fun here, folks. We're just having fun.
We will update our big boards in a moment here, but if we're just looking at it, Xavier Watts is sticking out like a sore thumb to me as a really talented football player who's still on the board. How many picks are we from the Bills picking now?
We're currently at pick 60, so we're 12 picks away from the Bills pick.
We got Trey Amos, no longer really a need. Darius Alexander, maybe the Bills double dip at IDL. Josiah Stewart, an edge. Kyle Williams, a receiver. Andrew Makuba, a safety. Landon Jackson's still there, by the way. Joshua Farmer is still there. Elik Ayamaner, wide receiver, still there.
Makuba.
Jalen Royals. if they envision a world where Jacob Parrish can be like a nickel safety, like can give them some dime looks, maybe a Jacob Parrish, Kevin Winston Jr., Jalen Royals. Those are some of the names I think that stick out to me the most.
Yeah, I mean, those are good names. I think like it would be a real shame if you had like some solid corners dropping to that pick because obviously they've already taken Hairston, but you never put a double dip past them, especially if they, like you said, they feel like guys could be flexible, have some versatility. So we'll see what the Broncos do here. They broke our hearts last night by taking Barron, although Barron was always a pipe dream. My friend who's a Broncos fan didn't like the Barron pick. I'm like, dude, come on, man. You have the best. You probably might have the best. He's still like on Riley Moss. I'm like, well, maybe Barron will play a little slot for you, and you can have Moss and Surtain on the outside and Barron in the slot. But yeah, it was very interesting, right? Like I feel like corners are just like not being valued.
Yeah, how
in this
weird
draft.
is that? And there are teams that need corners, I feel like. So
And
it's
whereas like
really weird.
last year, it felt like the last couple years, like corners have really been priority. But yeah, so far this year, corners have not been priority for teams.
Looking,
So I
they
still
seem to be
said,
really behind on TV because on TV they're just announcing the Jack Bash pick.
well, yeah, they're just showing, at least I mean mine, I'm streaming, so they're just showing the pick is in for the Ravens for me. But the Broncos are
on the clock.
I'm still waiting to see if we can get the Broncos pick. But yeah, they're back on the clock. They've been making a lot of trades so far in this
A lot
draft.
of trades in this round, yeah.
So, yep, Broncos will be picked 60, and then we're only 1, 2, 3, 4 picks left in the second round after that. And then I believe, from what I recall reading, and someone can fact check me on this, I believe the second round is 7 minutes per pick, and I believe the third round drops down to 5 minutes per pick, if I'm not mistaken. But someone can fact check me on that. I believe that's the case. So things should pick up a little bit pace wise here in the third. Although I felt like the second pace was decent. We still have 5 picks to go.
So as we are closing in on this pick, what are you vibing with right now as like the direction the Buffalo Bills could be headed? Are we looking at filling a possible 2026 need with a safety or an offensive lineman or a running back? Or are we still cooking in 2025 with an edge rusher or a double dip at defensive tackle?
I think for me, like
I also forgot wide receiver. You can throw wide receiver in there.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually thinking where I'm vibing right now is edge or safety. Those are the 2 positions I'm vibing with. I think Landon Jackson's still out there. Swinson, I believe, is still out there. And then at safety, Makuba and Watts and Winston are all 3 of them are out there. I think if you can land like a really maybe not quite blue chipper, but maybe a borderline close to blue chipper here at pick 72, whether it's Watts or Jackson, I would put Jackson and Watts kind of as my Jackson, Watts, Makuba would become my shortlisted 3 guys that I'm vibing with right now if they can make it to that pick.
Watch it be Pooh Paul. Watch it just be linebacker.
Well, they love taking linebackers in the third round,
Yeah,
so
they do.
Smile Munden, third round. No, just kidding. But yeah,
I had 2 linebackers on my chart of just like these seem like Bills picks to me. One was Carson Schlesinger, who was the first pick of the second round.
Yes. Yep.
The other was Chris Paul Jr. I think it would be a very Terrell Bernardi and Dorian Williams type of pick to snag that linebacker in the third round, especially if you just aren't vibing. If the Bills are just not vibing with Dorian as the Matt Milano heir apparent, and even if they are vibing with Dorian as the Matt Milano heir apparent, you're living in a world where when Matt Milano's gone, now all of a sudden your depth is wiped out unless you really believe in Adefanu Lufosio and Joel Andreessen and Baylon Spector. So if the Bills are looking to add another body to that room, which again, I think you could do it in the 5th or the 6th round. I don't know why they feel like they need to keep doing it in the 3rd round. Pooh Paul, I think, aligns with a lot of what they look for in a linebacker.
And the Denver Broncos do get the running back to fill in the void of Javonte Williams by taking RJ Harvey from Central
Ooh,
Florida.
he's a good running back.
849 RAS, second fastest 40 time of all the running backs that weighed 200 plus pounds at the combine, second most 10 plus yard runs in the class, sixth best yards per carry, 6.8 of draft eligible running backs with at least 100 rush attempts, only 2 fumbles in 2024 on 231 rushing attempts. Didn't grade out as a great pass blocker, one of the worst in the class, 21.8 grade as a pass blocker last year, but you have Estime there. If you're the Broncos, you're getting this guy for his rushing ability in RJ Harvey. So rounding out the room there in Denver with Jaleel McLaughlin and Estime is RJ Harvey, a nice running back.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, in my notes here, sort of whittle down like where I think the Bills could be sort of heading here. And
I mean,
I just don't know.
running back off the
They're
board.
so unpredictable in this round.
Yep. And I don't mind at all that I don't think the Bills will be in the mix for a running back here. It would surprise me. So running backs coming off the board, I'm fine with that right now.
I wonder if they get to the pick and Alexander and Farmer are still there, if they would be tempted to double dip at defensive tackle.
I think people see that, and that's where it's like, I feel like it's gonna be like that. You know that one meme where the lady, she's like, and she's like kind of going back and forth between like disappointment and oh okay maybe, or like the Alonzo Mourning one where he's like on the bench, like that. I think would be the Bills fans, a lot of Bills fans' faces if they double dipped at defensive tackle with this next pick. They'd be like, okay, like all right, fine, but yeah, we'll see. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Like we'd need to add beef to that line. We did. Again, Ogunjobi's gone after this year. Daquan Jones is gone. You only have Ed Oliver, Dwayne Carter, and now TJ Sanders. Wouldn't be the worst idea to have a look into 2026 with another defensive tackle. They have him highly rated enough. XI Titan says, I wanted to double dip at DT when we had 2 seconds. Yeah, but maybe he still wants one. So yeah, like, do people still want to double dip at defensive tackle? Would they be okay with a double dip at defensive tackle here with a second and a third? We will see. But yes, the Denver Broncos take Harvey. Commanders are now on the clock, and we'll see if the Commanders pick comes in here soon. Commanders take Trey Amos. There you go.
That's a good pick for them. That's we were talking about the Commanders as a team that could take a corner in front of us, and we were worried yesterday that they could take a corner for us. Now they add Trey Amos, who could be a plug and play guy for them, even as a second rounder, and they get a developmental tackle to sit behind Laramie Tunsil or to play right tackle and kick Brandon Coleman inside. So I've questioned a lot of what the Commanders have done this offseason from a lot of flash and no substance standpoint. They've been chasing names and trading a lot of assets to do so, but taking a lot of money to do so. But I like this draft for them so far from getting a guy like Amos here in the second round.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Commanders. I kind of feel about the same about Seattle, right? It's like, what were they doing? But then I look at their draft and I'm like, man, I like what they're doing in this draft. So I'll trust the process, so to speak, with those going into their second years each, respectively, in Dan Quinn there and McDonald in Seattle. So we'll see what they do. Good drafts so far for both of them. Time will tell, obviously, but I like what they're doing with those picks. And now we get to the meat of where the Bills would have been picking right now at pick 62, the Chicago Bears on the clock with pick 62, and then the Chiefs and the Eagles will round out the second round here. So the Bears now picking where the Bills would have had their second round picks now. And you've got guys like Landon Jackson and Darius Alexander on the board. So it is interesting. You could have had both of them probably if you stayed pat, but that's not what happened. So we'll see how things kind of play out now.
Oh, all right. So let's take a look at what's left on the board here. And I've sort of taken some notes here. Safety, Watts, Makuba, Winston, Bowman. Those all seem like Bills-like players. Alexander, Farmer. I think those guys could convince the Bills to double dip. I have Jordan Phillips and Jamari Caldwell as well, just because they would be true like one text to go along with Sanders. But again, I don't know. That might be too early, the third round. Alexander and Farmer seem like they would be the ones who would tempt you to double dip. Edge, I have Braden Swinson and Landon Jackson, just based on top 30 visits and things like that. I'm putting my love for Josiah Stewart aside here. Wide receiver, I'll put my love for Kyle Williams aside. The three guys that I think fit the mold of the Bills that have connection to the Bills are Jalen Royals, Torrey Horton, top 30 visits, Ty Felton, private workout. Linebacker, Pupal, they met with him. I think he had a private workout or something of that nature with Pupal. If we do take a linebacker, I'm pretty sure it'll be Pupal. And then I said cornerback with flex, Darian Porter and Jacob Parrish. Because Porter could be like an all-pro special teamer, like Pro Bowl, yearly Pro Bowl special teamer, just like block kicks and gunning and all those crazy things while being a very high upside backup. People don't want to hear that with their third round pick, but like, dude, that'd just be a nutty addition, another body to that secondary. And then maybe Parrish could play safety. He could be the heir apparent to Teron Johnson at nickel. He can give you a nickel and a boundary backup all in one. And obviously have a future here. So, again, third round, those things would be tempting, even though it would take, I think, longer for them to see the field for the Buffalo Bills. We have a super chat coming in from Craig M. He says, great job on the draft, guys. Can you briefly explain to a layman like me the skill set difference between Oliver, Carter, and Sanders? They appear to be the Bills' future at the defensive tackle position, but seem like similar players. Thanks. I would say body composition would be one. I think Sanders and Carter are more similar, but I think Sanders is a little bit more violent in the hands than a guy like Dwayne Carter. Oliver obviously is the size outlier. So while like they could all share traits, Oliver does so in a much smaller frame than the other two, even though the other two have a frame that's not exactly like, 320 pounds, 330 pounds. But Dave, what are your thoughts on just comparing these three techs to go along with Larry Ogunjobi?
Well, I'll say this. I think when the Bills drafted Carter, I think we weren't exactly sure what his role was going to be. And as it turned out, he ended up being kind of that backup to Ed Oliver. I think weight-wise, we thought maybe he would be a tweener, right? He'd be a guy that they would play potentially both in the Daquan Jones role and in the Ed Oliver role. They didn't do that. And obviously injuries kind of derailed his season a bit. So TBD on what Dwayne Carter will be, but I think based on the press conferences in the offseason, they've basically said that Dwayne Carter is going to be Ed Oliver's backup. Dwayne Carter, to me, he's not the type that I think can play next to Ed Oliver and kind of be that truly run stuffing disruptor like a guy like TJ Sanders can. I think hands-wise, TJ Sanders is above Dwayne Carter in the use of his hands. I think penetrating ability, TJ Sanders is a better penetrator than Dwayne Carter. So I do think that they'll probably have him slotted in a backup role. I think you can't just only look at sort of like the height, weight, and just say, hey, body types are similar. Because I actually think like Dwayne Carter, to me, feels a little bit... I'll go from the TJ Sanders perspective. I think TJ Sanders to me seems like a little bit more of an athletic body type, where I would say Dwayne Carter seems to me like a little bit more of a stouter body type. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I view them. I mean, other people may disagree, but weight wise, they may be all around the same, but I do think Sanders will end up playing a little bit over 300. I think Dwayne Carter will end up playing right around 300. And obviously we know Ed's playing around 285-ish or whatever he was at last year. So yeah, I mean, I get why people kind of are looking at that and thinking about like where these guys are going to be. But look, we'll find out tonight, right? Brandon Beane's going to get on this press conference, and I again will say that he's going to say that TJ Sanders is going to be a 3-down player, probably in the heir apparent to Daquan Jones. So he's not going to take Ed Oliver's space as a starter. So the obvious answer is that he's going to play next to Ed Oliver. So the Bears pick is in. They take Shamar Turner, defensive tackle. Someone that
kind
we've
of like
talked.
a five tech. I didn't really have him as a option for the Buffalo Bills. I'm doing a little. I'm doing a little thought experiment here on my computer right now. So
Okay.
take the reins here while I work myself through this thought experiment.
All right. So we've got the Bears taking Shamar Turner there with the Bills, formerly the Bills pick, and pick 62. So now we're down to 2 picks left here in the second round. We've got the Chiefs on the clock at pick 63, and then the Eagles will round out the second round with pick 64. And then we will be 8 picks away from the Bills' next pick at 72. And I do apologize that I'm not putting the who's on the clock on my little tagline there, but I think the picks are coming fast enough, and we're just kind of talking about them as they come, that I think people have a general idea of who's on the clock, and we'll say kind of we'll recap it as we kind of go. But yeah, comment section. I want to ask, with the players left on the board, who are you looking at right now in the comment section? I'm still vibing with safety and edge, Landon Jackson, Swinson, Makuba, Watts, Winston. Those 5 guys I'd all be pretty good with at this next pick. 5 of those guys there. And, we're only 10 picks away at this point. So we just need some interesting things to happen. Who do you guys want? I want to see some corners come off the board, right? Could Revel come off the board here? Could Porter come off the board here pretty soon? We'll see. That would be nice to come off the board here before the Bills' next pick. And as we got some people saying Watts, Jackson, but Alexander's tempting.
I was trying to do a Raz compare, but I hate the Raz. Like, I'm done with Raz, by the way. It's an awful website. It never works. I just use Mock Draftable at this point. I was trying to compare Kyle Williams and TJ Sanders.
Interesting.
Athletically, but that website never wants to work. So
that's an interesting one. I'd imagine that
maybe you'd have better luck on your desktop than me.
Yeah, I could try it.
I was trying to athletically compare Kyle Williams and TJ Sanders. But
yep. So we've got Watts. A lot of people on Watts, Jackson, and Kyle Williams. Watts, but except Jackson or Swinson, Williams or Watts. Pete says Revel if there, or defensive line. Umam Mielen is his guy. That's Princely from Ole Miss. Revel will be heading to Baltimore at this route as well. It's funny. Kyle's too small. Raz site is pretty terrible, says Pete. Yeah, it's not great. We've given Kent crap in the past about his site, but
it's a good tool. I'm just mad at it because every time I want to do it, it like never works.
Yeah, a lot of Alexander, a lot of Williams. Jalen Royals.
Chiefs are on the clock.
Yep.
Were they always on the clock, or did they trade up?
No, they were on the clock. They the Bears took Turner, and now we're just waiting on the Chiefs pick here.
Well, now Draft Diamonds tweets, because I've been following Draft Diamonds for the tip picks, and he says, "Oh wow."
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's wowing. Did the Chiefs take Shedeur Sanders?
That would be hilarious, and also like I'd be fine with that because like who gives a shit if they take like that's a wasted pick for them in my opinion if they do. But yeah, Damon likes the drama. He likes to put some stuff out there and like get the people sweating a little bit. So we'll see what the Chiefs end up doing. The pick is in for them, according to the coverage, but I'm still not seeing who it is. And once I get that in, I'll update the ticker here as we're about to kind of head into the third round. I'll switch the third round ticker here in just a second. So yeah, waiting still to see who the Chiefs pick is going to be.
This is the last pick of the second round, correct?
No, we got the Eagles at 64 as
yes.
the last pick of the second round. So and then we move right into the third after that. So pick 65 is the first pick of the third round, and then obviously the Bills are at 72. So an early third rounder for them, as we've said.
Yeah, we're about to get Shedeur Sanders sliding into unless there's a trade here, we're about to get Shedeur Sanders falling into the third round. That's pretty crazy.
Yep. Omar Norman Lott for the Kansas City Chiefs here at pick 63. So good value for them for a guy that they can put right next to Chris Jones. I think
nice penetrator for them. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, it's good value for them for sure. I mean, kind of don't like that just because I think it's a nice pick for them for what was left. And they're not afraid to take those types of guys, even if they don't really do much in run support. So, yeah, you got Chris Jones. They're showing the Chiefs' defensive piece of the puzzle. Norman Lott, Karlaftis, Bolton, McDuffie. Yeah, they've got a. We know they've got a good team, so we don't need to keep on that. Now we're on the Eagles. Last pick of the second round. So here we go.
Eagles, Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. I'm just updating my ticker here, even though we're about to just switch it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But get this updated for the people.
The WGR guys have made it known that they want Kyle Williams with this next pick. So
it's so funny
how
like
the one time that us and the radio might be in alignment here.
Yeah, I mean, again, Kyle Williams, talking about him back in February. Like, why is this guy ranked in the 150s, 180s? Like, he's a day 2 pick. Like, I didn't get it. And then slowly but surely, he just like rose up, and we'll see who the Eagles pick here. Eagles. Fuck.
What do they do now?
Makuba to the Eagles.
Oh, that's such an Eagles pick, especially with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson gone now, right? They move on him again.
Oh God,
that's a great pick for them. Pain.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah, they have Sidney Brown and Blankenship penciled in as their starting safeties right now. So,
I guess he has an overhang nickel. Like, he has a nickel element too for them. So that's a great pick. Ryan Tong coming in saying Bumblebee Tuna. Thank you for the super chat. I always appreciate you.
Damn it. I really thought that he was going to get to 72, man.
Makuba before Xavier Watts. Makuba before Xavier Watts.
Again,
Xavier Watts in the third round is nuts.
I said maybe 2 months ago that Makuba was my favorite safety in the draft. Probably had him. I think he was my safety 3 in my final rankings. I think it was. I think I actually had him ahead of Watts. I had Starks, Imanwari, Makuba were my top 3. But man,
I'm a homer, but to me, Xavier Watts was a top 15 player in this draft. I can't count 14 players that are better than Xavier Watts. When you look at the resume and things like that, Pete Nana says Watts has to have an injury at this point. I do think it's athletic testing. I think he ran like a 4.56 40. Like I just think they're like, well, he's just an average athlete, like not a premium position. Like, how many times you got to make the mistake with safeties, guys? Come on, like. Yeah. And maybe you're right, Pete. Maybe it is safeties or it is injury at this point, but that's just crazy to me that there are people out there that think there are 75 players in this draft better than, 65 players in this draft better than Xavier Watts. That's nuts. That's nuts to me. Someone's going to get a steal here in the third round.
Yep. Maybe it'll be the Bills. That'll really take the sting out of the Makuba pick there.
So we're now officially into the third round. The Chiefs are back on the clock. The Giants have taken Darius Alexander off the board, by the way. The Giants have selected Darius Alexander. It's a good pick for them. So Darius Alexander off the board. The Chiefs are back on the clock. Was that a trade up or did they always have that pick?
I had it on the ticker from the start of today, so it wasn't a trade from today. It might have been a trade from previously, but it's going into today that they've always had that pick.
All right. So the Chiefs are back on the clock here. The Giants have taken Darius Alexander off the board. I
mean, that's fine. I mean, it's fine, I guess, if you didn't want to double dip this early. right? I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's good value for them. I think Abdul Carter, Darius Alexander trying to like you got you got you know, retool maybe that defensive line a bit, but again, I still don't exactly know what the Giants' vision is for what they're doing. So
This is the trade last year for L'Jarius Sneed that has gotten them this pick from the Titans.
got it. Okay, that makes sense.
So just going back to how many picks are we away now? We are
7 picks away.
7 picks away. Xavier Watts, Kevin Winston, Billy Bowman, Joshua Farmer, Jordan Phillips, Jamari Caldwell, Landon Jackson, Braden Swinson, Kyle Williams, Jalen Royals, Torrey Horton, Ty Felton, Chris Paul Jr., maybe some wild cards, a guy like Dylan Sampson at running back, I really like. Jacob Parrish or Darian Porter if we want to double dip at corner with guys who maybe have some flexibility. Porter could be an all-world special teamer and a really good backup. And Jacob Parrish could have some nickel safety flex. So if they see some flexibility with those defenders and adding depth to the secondary, maybe they decide to go that route. So these are the players I'm vibing with. I have all the names that have pre-draft visited circled or have been connected to in the pre-draft process, like a private workout. Joshua Farmer, Billy Bowman Jr., Landon Jackson, Braden Swinson, Jalen Royals, Torrey Horton, Ty Felton, Chris Paul Jr., Jacob Parrish, and Darian Porter.
A lot of guys. I mean, like, it would be really, like, how would you feel if the Bills double dipped, not at interior D-line, but double dipped at corner this early? Went with, like, Parrish or Porter. Like, that would be,
yeah.
I think people would not be too happy with that if that happened. But, you know, who knows?
I'm going to step away for about 2 minutes. So if you could take over here, I just got to step out real quick.
Gotcha. No problem. Guys, a little bit of me died inside, honestly. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty down about this Makuba thing to the Eagles. I know it probably wasn't like a huge, it wasn't necessarily a huge need. I get it. But I don't know. I was vibing with edge and safety, and I really like Makuba. Maybe it'll be Watts or Jackson, and that will soften the blow here a bit for me if that ends up being the case. But man, I'm down bad. I'm just glad he didn't go into someone in the AFC, someone that we're competing with in the AFC. Of course, he goes to the Eagles, like such an Eagles thing to do. And now the Chiefs are back on the clock again. So let's see what they do. They'll hopefully not break our hearts before we pick yet again, as they did with McDuffie a couple years ago. So Giants taking Alexander, a double dip possibility there for the Bills if they wanted to go on the interior, but I'm not vibing right now with necessarily a double dip at the interior. I'd like to see them go elsewhere, go to another position, but if they do end up doing that, I'd certainly be okay with it, depending on who it is. But a lot of people think Bills Mafia 5-6s. You think they trade back into the third? Yeah, I don't think I'll say this. If Landon Jackson is there at the Bills pick at 72, I don't think they trade down. I mean, they had the meeting with him at the combine. They had him in for a visit. They need an edge player for the future beyond 2025. Bosa's 1 year. AJ Epenesa's contract is up. They've got, Javon Solomon, a promising young player there. Hoyt is a bit of a tweener. So it's like, what is your future beyond 2025 opposite of Greg Rousseau? Could it be a guy like Landon Jackson? And could that be like your pairing for the next 3 to 4 years? Should be interesting. So I'll say if a guy like that is on the board, or Swinson, I'd expect them to stay put. But if it gets to 72 and it's just like a hodgepodge of guys and it's like a who's who and it's like no one's really standing out, if someone really wants to come up and take something there, maybe the Bills could squeeze a little value. Maybe they can get a 4th round pick back that they gave up in the move up to get TJ Sanders. So it's possible. And then we have some people who don't like Landon Jackson as well. So we've got some people saying the value wasn't bad. It was who they traded for. So we'll see here. Let's see if we've got the Chiefs pick yet. Okay, the Chiefs. are, let's see, do we have, nope, still waiting for it. Still waiting for the Chiefs pick here, so they're taking their time here. And Claude says wouldn't mind a trade down. Yeah, I think for me, like Watts or Jackson would be the two guys on the short list now that Makuba's gone for me. So we'll see. We're only now with the Chiefs on the clock, we are only 6 picks away. So coming up pretty soon here. And let's see who gets picked. Got this yet. Still nothing. Buffalo defendant says Landon Jackson would be the most Bills pick ever. Another rotational edge that will never be a stud. As much as like I know you're being cynical with that, you're actually like probably right. I mean, honestly, probably right.
Greg Cosell, again, the conversation he was having, I trust Greg Cosell. Like, I know he's on One Bills Live, which is very much like the, state-run media for the Buffalo Bills. You're not going to catch them saying anything negative about the Buffalo Bills. But Greg Cosell has been at this a very long time, breaking down film.
Chiefs take Ashton Gillette.
He is such a Chiefs pick. That guy is such a baller, dude. Just an absolute power player at defensive end. Him coming off the board with how stiff as he is over Landon Jackson is a little surprising, though. But he was high on the Hairston pick. He is very high on the TJ Sanders pick. And in the pre-draft, Greg Cosell. Greg Cosell. And he was very high on Landon Jackson when they asked him about Landon Jackson. Said his makeup, his composition, his athletic profile coming out of the draft reminded him a lot of Max Crosby coming out. Not what Max Crosby turned into, but what Max Crosby became. And even guys like Joe Marino, who have watched Landon Jackson's tape, said liked it more than I thought I would. And Arkansas used him at the 4-eye a lot and didn't put him in a position to pin his ears back and get after the quarterback. So he's the kind of guy who can maybe kick a little bit inside, can play power edge. He's going to have Joey Bosa and Groot there to sort of mentor him and groom him as another power player along the defensive line. So at 30, would Landon Jackson have ticked me off? Yeah. Trading all those assets like we did for TJ Sanders to take Landon Jackson, would that have ticked me off? Yeah. Getting Landon Jackson at 72 would not upset me in the slightest. Not even a little bit. That's an exciting ceiling pick, I think, in the 3rd round, whose floor is probably what you just mentioned, another rotational edge. But I think there's more to him than that, especially coming to an environment where maybe he doesn't have to be like a dude right away, coming with the expectations of like the 30th pick or all those assets traded up to get you in the top of the 2nd round.
Yeah, I don't think I can be mad about getting Landon Jackson in the 3rd round, right? Like there's a reason, like you can say he's going to be a rotational edge guy and like, that's fine. But like his floor, I think is going to be pretty good for a 3rd round pick that you take in the edge. I mean, what was he? He was like a 9.99 RAS, right? So he's an athletic freak, stole the show, obviously, with the combine drills and all the testing he did. And yeah, at the beginning, he's going to be, kind of a power player. I get that. But like when you left, I was talking about like what the Bills' edge room looks like beyond 2025. Like there's no Joey Bosa, there's no AJ Epinesa as of right now. You've got a young player in Solomon coming up, but you have Hoyt, who's kind of like a tweener, versatile guy. Like who are you going to pair? Truly, you going to pair opposite of Gregory Rousseau heading into 2026, right? That's a valid question to ask because it's murky beyond 2025. And if you think Landon Jackson at least has a chance to be that guy, and if you think he could be a better ceiling than AJ Epinesa, maybe that's where you go. The Bills have already given AJ Epinesa 1 contract extension. Do you envision them giving him another? I'm not so sure about that.
Titan X comes in and says Williams is too small, 6'1", 186. If you're looking for a guy to come in and be your number 1 receiver, I don't disagree with you. But like, remember how nice it was to have Emmanuel Sanders to take the pressure off of everybody and how fun that passing offense was when Emmanuel Sanders was here. I've used the Emmanuel Sanders comp for Ty Felton because I think athletically they profile the same. But I'll use the same argument with Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams doesn't need to come in here and be a 100-catch guy. You've got Dalton Kincaid. You've got Khalil Shakir. You've got Keon Coleman, who you want to get the ball to. You've got Joshua Palmer, who you want to get the ball to. You got the running backs out of the back. Like, all you need Kyle Williams to do is come in and separate. Separate versus man would be what he does best. Like, get open. So in the third round, whether it's Kyle Williams, whether it's Jalen Royals, whether it's Torrey Horton, whether it's Ty Felton, I'd be game with it. A lot of people want to point to Jalen Noel, and I love Jalen Noel. I don't love him for the Buffalo Bills. At that size, the slot verts that he was known for in college, like, no thank you. If it was another team or we didn't have Khalil Shakir, I'd be all over Jalen Noel. But we do, just like Jack Besh. Like, I don't want all of Dalton Kincaid's targets to go to Jack Besh. I don't want Khalil Shakir's target share getting eaten away by Jalen Noel. I'm looking for a complementary piece. That is Kyle Williams. That is Torrey Horton. That is Ty Felton. That is Jalen Royals. That's what I'm looking for if we do decide to go wide receiver. Tight ends is in the fourth, yes, not the third. At this point, it's all apples and oranges. Or it's just, I mean, I think it's semantics at this point, especially with all the defensive ends that are still on the board. Like, I don't know. If the guy can come in and stretch the field and open up everything for everyone else and becomes a big play target down the field, I'm okay using a third round pick on that.
And the Browns take Harold Fannin, tight end from
Bowling Green. I take that mistake off the board. There we go. Actually, he might actually eat with Stefanski. I think a lot of other places he could have gone and been a nightmare. Like, in a bad way.
Yeah, my friend who's a Broncos fan wanted him for the Broncos, Fannin. But I'm like, you got Ingram. You signed Evan Ingram. Like, I feel like that would have been a luxury pick, not to mention, like, the Broncos basically don't use a tight end at all. So, anyway, yeah, Josiah Stewart's still out there as well.
Vic Taper, senior writer for The Athletic, given who is he covers the Raiders, very well respected in league circles as a journalist, tweeted, given Shedur's strong ties to Tom Brady, the Raiders passing on him at 37, 48, and 58 only validates other teams' reservations / doubts about the quarterback. Said it at the combine. His interviews, including board work, went very badly. So we could see Shedur slipping into day 3.
But here's the thing, and like, I think people are gonna. At
that point, do you even want that headache of Deion for a developmental guy?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like people are gonna say.
I wasn't talking about Sanders to us, by the way. It's just in general.
Yeah, no, but it's like clearly it's not just like one team. It's like the whole of the NFL is really feeling this way right now. So it's like I see a lot of people online kind of like saying that there's other reasons why he's not getting paid. Like, no, I think the reason is that they don't expect him to be the best football player, right? Like, that's at the end of the day, that's what these teams care about. So, Darian Porter.
Darian Porter, the Raiders. I was kind of warming up to the thought of the Bills double dipping a corner with Darian Porter to just come and ball out in special teams, but that's a good pick.
Lions traded up to pick 70, a couple picks ahead of the Bills with the Jags. So the Lions will be at pick 70.
Who's at 71?
The Saints. They'll fuck it up.
I think they were trying to jump us. I don't think they're trying to jump the Saints.
Yeah, probably. But
I mean, they've already beaten us to one guy. And I think these are two teams that are built very similar in Detroit and Buffalo. Yeah, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, not so much on the defensive side of the ball. Defense, they have a much different perspective on interior defensive linemen in Detroit than they do in Buffalo.
Yeah, very.
Ali McNeil, Tyleek Williams.
God, yeah, it is.
Because that was the comp for Tyleek, right? It was Aleem. Patriots select Kyle Williams.
Oh, really?
Oh, things. That hurts. Given Drake May, Kyle Williams. Oh, that hurts my soul. Where the Patriots were on the clock.
Patriots were 69. Now Detroit's on the clock with pick 70.
Oh, that one. That one's. It happens every year, right? It happens every year.
It happened with Javon Bullard 2 years ago.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It's happened to me twice today with the Ravens pick, or twice this year with the Ravens picks, but it happens all the time. It comes with the territory. But a division rival like the Patriots getting what I think is the best separator in the draft in Kyle Williams is not great, Bob.
Well, you still got Watts, you still got Jackson,
and we still got Josh Allen. So
Yep. Watts, Jackson. Okay, so there's 3 picks to go, obviously, or two picks ahead of us. So
Detroit and
Watts.
The Saints.
Yep, Watts, Jackson. Who would be a third guy that you'd be pretty happy with here?
So we got, if it were me, Xavier Watts. I'll take one from
Swinson.
I'll
Watts,
take one from
Jackson?
each. I'll take one from each of the 3 major position groups. Xavier Watts, Landon Jackson. I don't care if it's Royals, Horton, or Felton, whoever they want. One of those 3.
Mm-hmm.
Poop Hall sticks out to me as a guy the Bills would like. Joshua Farmer sticks out to me as a double dip candidate. Jacob Parrish met with the Bills. Again, it could be Taron Johnson insurance and eventual Taron Johnson replacement. It can be a boundary backup. It can be maybe a safety transition for a Jacob Parrish. He's got that physicality, that wanting to tackle. So I wouldn't rule out Jacob Parrish. D Loud says Dante Thornton. If we take Dante Thornton, I will not be a happy man. High drop rate, one-trick pony, vertical separator, nothing else really about his game.
Well, Josiah Stewart,
which is fine. Which is fine on day 3. Which is fine on day 3, but not on day 2.
What about your guy Josiah Stewart? No matter what.
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was trying to go predictive. If we take Josiah Stewart, I'll jump through the roof.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If I'm going off my own personal big board, my top prospects left are Xavier Watts, Josiah Stewart, and Landon Jackson, because Kyle Williams just came off the board. So if Xavier Watts, Josiah Stewart, Landon Jackson are my next 3. After that, it's Elick Eamenter, Azari Thomas, Jalen Royals, Jacob Parrish, Kevin Winston Jr., Josh Farmer, Savone Rebel, Dylan Sampson. And then I got Braden Swinson right down. Did someone took Princely yet? No one's taken Princely yet.
No one's taken Princely.
One trick.
I think
I figured he was going to slide.
Yeah.
He gives you nothing on rundowns.
Yeah. Pete's a fan of Princely. He'd be happy.
I'm a fan of him as a pass rusher. You're not getting anything else out of him, though.
No. I mean, but maybe that's okay. You get Terrion Arnold up here. That's a great suit Terrion Arnold's wearing. Announcing this Lions pick. Let's see.
The Lions have selected. Oh, no, we don't. Are they doing it live on TV? They're not. It's going on TV.
I don't have it. Let's see.
Wow, we're getting it on TV again, just like we did with the Bills pick, huh? It's because it's going to be painful.
Yeah, I have a feeling they jumped us, right? They're like, the Saints, whatever. The Bills are who we're worried about.
I think it was the Bills that they jumped here.
Oh, Isaac Tesla.
And it could have been the Bills that they jumped. Isaac Tesla was a pre-draft visit for the Buffalo Bills. A juiced up Mac Hollins. Like that was with speed. Like the guy who can get after it and block. A guy who can go downfield. Now, he was mostly a slot player at Arkansas, but the argument is he was misused at Arkansas and he could be used better. It wouldn't shock me if this it would not shock me if this would have been the Buffalo Bills pick.
Yeah.
At 72. I would not be shocked if the Detroit Lions had intel and said Isaac Tesla is a Detroit Lion Buffalo Bill style player. We want him. And they went up and went and get him. They traded a 3rd round pick next year and 2 3rd round picks next year.
They
gave up a lot for Isaac Tesla.
That's a lot to get.
They must really think that like he has not hit his. They must really think highly of his ceiling, which I think a lot of people do. Vernon Broughton to the Saints, by the way, so the Bills are on the clock.
I said earlier today in my list of interior defensive linemen that don't sleep on Vernon Broughton. He's underrated in that group of guys we listed, and here he goes getting picked in the 3rd round.
So the interesting thing is like the assumption is Keon Coleman takes the Matt Collins mantle. But listening to some of the Matt Collins commentary in some of the interviews and podcasts he's done, he makes it sound like the Bills, he wants to be the vertical separator. So maybe the Bills were looking for a Matt Collins, replacement in Isaac Tesla, and the Detroit Lions knew it. The Detroit Lions liked his upside, and the Detroit Lions jumped the Bills. They must have really liked Isaac Tesla to give up that much. And if the Bills thought just as highly of a guy like Isaac Tesla and we're about to take him at 72, that must really sting Brandon Beane right now. So it'll be really interesting to see how they pivot. Really interesting to see how they pivot. 2 third-round picks they gave up. That's crazy. I know they got some stuff back, but Bills are on the clock.
Assuming, that was the guy the Bills were going to take, we'll never know, right?
Of course, but also that in commercial.
But also, it doesn't really burn me up that much that they picked him. I mean, that's okay. I'm okay with it. I'm not.
And who knows? Maybe that starts a run on receivers. So maybe Brandon Beane sees this and is like, I got to take a receiver now.
I mean, can you pass on Xavier Watts here if you're the Bills? I feel
maybe Pete Nano was right earlier. Maybe it's something medical.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
I think it's more just athletic testing, but
we know they love Landon Jackson. Could he be the pick? I could very easily see Landon Jackson being the pick here.
To me, I'm not even going to put Watts in the equation. I'm looking at guys that they have met with: Farmer, Jackson, Swinson, Royal, Horton, Felton, Paul. Wild card, Billy Bowman, Jacob Parrish. Who knows? Let's see if Brandon Beane sticks to his pre-draft meetings or he sways from his pre-draft meetings here with this next pick, because I'm just constantly scrolling refreshing my feed here.
Could we see
in commercial?
We see maybe a little bit of a trade down, perhaps here.
Maybe they try to trade down. I don't know who's wanting to trade up. Pittsburgh for Shitter Sanders. No one's taking him at this point.
Yeah, they could just wait and get him. They're picking in 10 picks anyway. So,
boy, we anxiously scroll. We anxiously wait.
Here we go, folks.
You got a pick in?
Nope, I'm just getting the comment section buttered up for what's going to be, I'm sure, an interesting reaction once this pick is in. I know I don't have it. I do not have it.
I went to Jordan Schultz, and he's crying about Shedeur Sanders not being drafted, so nothing there.
I mean, maybe he's just not going to be good. I don't know. It's not I don't care because we don't need a quarterback. So I really honestly, all that stuff with him, I really couldn't care less about all that stuff. Whatever, don't care.
The Bills pick is in. And Dave, you might have the graphic handy, and if you do, you can pull it up. But the Buffalo Bills select Arkansas defensive end Landon Jackson. So as we sort of predicted, the Bills have been chalk in this draft. It is 2025 needs that they are pursuing, and they are doing so today with TJ Sanders and Landon Jackson. What I like about Landon Jackson, again, he might have been a little miscast at Arkansas. This is a guy with a 999 RAS. It's a guy with a lot of athletic ceiling. You have Joey Bosa and you have Groot to sort of groom him as a power edge. And on top of that, he's a guy who could possibly do the Dwayne Smoot type of things and kick inside on passing downs. And Pete Nana says chalk at pick 72 is funny. I don't mean chalk so much as players as I mean just they're chalking by going the obvious positions. I was expecting the Buffalo Bills to pursue some 2026 needs. I thought that we would see them pursuing safeties or other things like that. They have pretty much sending a clear message. We need to get this defense better. We need to get this defense better immediately. And they are addressing the line. They are addressing corner with some of the moves that they are making. So, Dave, your early thoughts here on Landon Jackson.
Yeah, Landon Jackson, 9.78 RAS. Other than Shamar Stewart, Jackson's the only edge player with an 83-plus inch wingspan of the edge class. Clear winner at the combine. Second best broad jump of all edges at the combine, only behind Shamar Stewart. Had a formal meeting with the Bills at the combine. 6'7", 280, had a good Senior Bowl as well. All reports are that he came on over the week practice of the Senior Bowl week. Obviously stood out at the combine and culminated during the game with a good game as well there against that competition. So this, again, such a Billsy pick and not surprise again. Like, it's just funny. I look at the tweet again I sent yesterday. I was like, hey, my gut says the Bills are going to take either TJ Sanders or Landon Jackson at pick 30. And people were just like, no, they can't do that. I'm like, yeah, no, like that would have been a reach. But guess what? They ended up with both of these guys on the team.
This is a guy he's 6'6", 264 pounds. He's put on a lot of this weight like the last 2 or 3 years too, because he was like, this is a guy who's really come on as an athlete the last 2 years. Like, he always had the frame, but he had to pack it on. He's packed it on over the last couple of years. 10-inch hands, 33-inch arms, 83, almost 84-inch wing, right? You mentioned the 975 RAS. Like, this dude is very built. Like, I think the issue you're going to have with him is, like, this is not a bendy edge. This is a power edge. But we talked about that. We had this conversation. This goes back to the conversation. We had 2 conversations at the top of the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had a conversation about what philosophically they were looking for at defensive tackle and what philosophically they were looking for at edge rusher. And the Bills are making it clear philosophically where they lean at interior defensive line with the penetrators, and now here at edge with the length and the strength. And the Buffalo Bills add a pure bull rusher, like a power guy. So it's going to be really interesting to see if he can add some bend and do some of those things. But I remember he had a big game. I'll have to pull up the exact numbers against Alabama, not this past season, but in 2023. And Brandon Beane always seems drawn to guys who have like really big games against big time opponents. So that Landon Jackson game against Alabama a couple of years ago might loom large.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it does. And also, like, by the way, it's one game and I get it, but he, to perform in the Senior Bowl as well against all that competition, I think that means something as well. So for me, like, that goes a long way.
He had some nice wins against Will Campbell this year too in their matchup against LSU.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, he checked a lot of boxes there. And I feel like this is an eye as well on 2026 as the Jets take AZ Thomas corner from Florida State.
Very Aaron Glenn type of pick there. We're kind of focused on that.
Yep. But Jackson, again, an eye on 2026. And so, say it again, like, the Bills have question marks beyond 2025 at edge, and who are going to be your bookend starting guys. Like, I would imagine the Bills probably don't envision Javon Solomon being the starter opposite of Gregory Rousseau in 2026, right? I at least at this juncture. I can easily see a world where they would envision Landon Jackson being a starter opposite of Greg Rousseau in 2026, depending on what happens with AJ Epinesa and Joey Bosa, who are both not under contract beyond this year. So, again, shoring up your core 3 on the interior with TJ Sanders, Dwayne Carter, Ed Oliver. Now you've got a little bit of a core working for the future now, depending in regardless of what happens with Epinesa, with Solomon and Hoyt now, who's kind of like your inside out guy, and Rousseau, and now you add Landon Jackson to the mix. So the Bills really trying to kind of get this defensive line right. Look, they addressed the 3 positions we and most people thought were the most glaring positional needs in corner, interior, and edge with the first 3 picks. And so, again, you can critique the players, maybe the picks, but they addressed the 3 needs I think that mostly everybody wanted.
Yeah, I know. Night 1, we had the conversation, right? Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, could any of those guys get into the Bills' range to trade up? Neither got anywhere near the Bills' range to trade up. But when you look at Landon Jackson, he's the poor man's version of these 2 guys, right? Like, that length, that strength, very high floor. You know that you're going to get at least rotational run stuffing snaps out of a guy like Landon Jackson. He had 6.5 sacks last year, put up good tape against Will Campbell, who was the number 4 overall pick. He is a guy who, again, a lot of people have noted was used out of position at Arkansas in the 4-eye a lot. So that kind of stunted some of his pass rush potential. I mentioned earlier, Greg Cosell said the prospect Landon Jackson reminded him a lot of the prospect Max Crosby. So there's some ceiling there, especially with that RAS score for more as well. So pretty, it's a very safe pick, right? And earlier today, I was I was tweeting out how, if you're the Buffalo Bills, you're at an inflection point right now with your defensive line, right? Because if you look to 2026, as I go back to the first page of my notes here, you go to 2026, right? It's a defensive tackle. It was Ed Oliver, Dwayne Carter, Zion Logue. Now it's Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders, Dwayne Carter, Zion Logue. At edge rusher in 2026, you were staring down the barrel of Gregory Rousseau, Michael Hoyt, and Javon Solomon. Now it's Gregory Rousseau, Landon Jackson, Michael Hoyt, Javon Solomon. So the Bills have added some power players to that defensive line, and they have added blazing speed and playmaking to that secondary. They have interjected length, strength, energy, speed, playmaking, high RAS scores, an injection of youth and energy and vigor into this defense. And I think it was much needed.
Absolutely. And so the Jets, we said, take AZ Thomas. The Denver Broncos take Pat Bryant, wide receiver at pick 74.
Very
that
Cortland
was
Sutton-y type of pick for them there.
Yep. Who was that was a pick they got in the trade with the Panthers and trading down. So looks like the 49ers are now on the clock. And how are we feeling? How's the comment section feeling? I haven't had a chance to really look yet, but how are we feeling in the comment section? We've got, if you told me we would get TJ Sanders and Landon Jackson with our picks yesterday, I would be ecstatic. Definitely not drafting best player, all about me. Look up the video of Landon Jackson working pads years ago and getting laughed at by the coach. Interesting. So now we've got the 49ers, I think, on the clock, if I'm not mistaken. And now we wait. I think this probably is it for the Bills tonight. I don't envision now with them only having the 1 4th rounder that we're going to see another 3rd round pick from the Bills tonight. But we'll see. You never know.
I love these comps to the way Landon Jackson looks. Agent 47, NoHo Hank for any fans of Barry out there. Prometheus. Charlie Villanueva throwback. Charlie Villanueva.
Oh, Charlie Villanueva. Yeah, there you go. That is a throwback.
So looking now at Landon Jackson, let me go to my big board here. Landon Jackson was my 25th ranked player. So the Bills have gotten my 16th, 22nd, and 25th ranked players on a Bills specific big board. So it's not like they got 3 first-round picks. Like these were I didn't put Mason Graham on my big board or Travis Hunter or Ashton Genty. I didn't put guys at positions the Buff. I have like 4 offensive linemen on this list and things like that. So of guys I thought the Bills would zero in on, they got what I think are the 16th, 22nd, and 25th best ones. It's pretty darn good.
Pretty darn good.
Is it as good as the Ravens? No, but like who went 1-2 on my big board? But
yep. PFF had Landon Jackson as their 39th overall prospect. Dane Brugler had Landon Jackson as his 47th overall prospect and a 2nd round grade on him. So I think pretty good value here for the Bills, getting a position of need, getting a guy. And look, this isn't like a floor rotational guy that's some middling like physical archetype. The guy is like a very, very good athlete. So again, you're getting a little, I don't want to say it's exactly like this because Arkansas is not a small school, but another 3rd round guy a couple years ago with a good athletic profile with some, maybe some things to work on. Spencer Brown, right? Like a couple years ago was a 3rd round pick, good athletic profile, had some upside, didn't play right away. I kind of see Landon Jackson a bit like the Spencer Brown pick from a couple years ago, to be honest. And I think there is some ceiling there. And the fact that he was picked in the 3rd round doesn't mean there's going to be huge expectation on him, I think, in 2025, but I think he will contribute. I really do think he will contribute.
Action Jackson coming with a super chat. I always appreciate you, Action. He says, go Bills, go Braves, go Looport. Great coverage, guys. I'm going to have to disagree with you on the last statement there. I'm a Grand Island High School grad, so go Vikings. That's what I would say.
There you go.
Sorry, Action Jackson. I had to go there.
Had to.
We used to beat up on you guys pretty good in basketball. In football, you would always get us, but in basketball, we always had your number. I had the best seat in the house from the bench during basketball season, so
Brandon
I know quite
Beane
well.
says, quote, he's everything we want in DNA in a defensive lineman, per Joe B. Said they're very excited to get third-round pick in Landon Jackson, where they did. Speaks highly of his smarts, instincts, awareness. And now we've got the 49ers on the clock.
Yeah. Buffalo Defendant says Beane doing his presser already, so hope of a trade back up into the third. LOL. No hope, I'd assume. Probably not. Like, probably not. Like, they're like, I can understand people who are like let down because like they had some like higher expectations or had other players that they favored. But like, if you look at this draft, like you can't be like mad at it, and like you can't be like it's like Charles G says, yeah, let's get all the slow, unathletic players.
Nick Martin to the
like,
49ers linebacker.
Nick Martin's so good, so good. I had him on my Bills board. I don't know if Charles being sarcastic or not, but like we just got 3 great athletes. I don't know why people would say they were unathletic. I think they were very, very athletic. Like, athletic freaks. So I don't know. Yeah, Dave, where's your mind at now? Where like, let's set it back up. Where do we stand here?
Look, if you told me before the draft that, let's say, the Bills stood pat with the 3 picks that they had, right? And they had come away with those 3 picks with Hairston, TJ Sanders, and Landon Jackson, I really feel like I would have signed up for that in a heartbeat, without knowing like where they were picked. Like I would have signed up for that for sure. And as the Dallas Cowboys take Revel finally goes off the board. So I feel good actually. Like I'm really not like people who watched us and who watch our shows, and they know that like we are not homers. We can be critical of this team. We have been critical of this team in the past. I like what the team has done with these first 3 picks. I think they went and they got a guy that they wouldn't have typically gone for archetype wise in Hairston. They went for the speed, right? They didn't necessarily go for the typical sort of high floor, maybe not as athletic. They went for the athlete. They went for the speed. They went for the guy that they think that they can coach up from a tackling standpoint as an area that he needs work on, obviously. And then they go for, which I almost guarantee, I don't know, maybe Beane said it already tonight in his presser, since now he's on, about TJ Sanders playing 3 downs. One of the few guys left, I think, at the time. I thought he could have gone as early as round 1, very early round 2, goes, sort of early round 2. The Bills get a guy that they think can penetrate and play the run. And then they go for an athletic edge player, power edge player here in the 3rd round. I think in my heart of hearts, I would have preferred maybe a bendier guy like a Stewart, right? But the fact that they did address the position with a good athlete and a guy who can at least give you some floor and setting the edge on run defense as well. And there goes Mielen to the Carolina Panthers. So the Panthers go with getting some pass rushers in this draft. So, I'm good with it. Everything will play out and we'll see how it truly plays out. But you get a guy like Mielen right now going to the Panthers, who's like the opposite type of edge player as a Landon Jackson, right? So I think a lot of it also comes down to what are people's preferences. I think I would have preferred more of a pure pass rusher, but I'm still generally okay with how they addressed it. I think they still will have a problem getting to the quarterback potentially. But that's why they bring in a guy like Joey Bosa, hopefully, who can actually get to the quarterback. And, we'll see. So solid. I feel pretty good about it. Time will tell, but I don't know. What are you thinking right now?
In terms of runs, and I'm gonna pull this. I'm gonna pull up our our coverage board, and I might have missed a few guys here, so apologies if I missed a few guys. But I'm gonna pull our board back up here. I've been kind of shocked by the runs. Like, again, this is why we stopped doing mock drafts here, right? Like, if we would have done a mock draft, Dave, where we took Landon Jackson in the 3rd round, people would have laughed at us.
There wouldn't
How
have
many
been
times did we even have Maxwell Hairston available to us in the 1st round?
I mean, there wasn't a simulator out there that would have even allowed you to have a Landon Jackson in the 3rd.
What simulator would have had?
I mean, unless you picked every pick like for each team, then yes, okay, fine.
We still have some time between now and the end of the 3rd, and we still have some time now. And there's some compensatory picks that bulk up the end of the 3rd. And we still have quite a ways now because we traded our first 4th round pick to our next pick. But like, I know it's a deep tackle class, but like, look at all these tackles: Joshua Farmer, CJ West, Jordan Phillips, Shamari Caldwell, Deion Walker, Ty Robinson. If you would have told me like halfway through round 3 that some of these guys are still on the board, I've been like, oh, okay. And then you look at edge, right? The next position up here on this board, if you would have told me halfway through the 3rd, we're still staring down like Josiah Stewart, Braden Swinson, and Jordan Birch and Jack Sawyer, they're still on the board, I'd be a little shocked, right? So there's still some talent there. But again, we got a guy in the 1st tier, the 1st bucket of edge, and we got a guy in the 1st bucket of IDL.
Mm-hmm.
I'd argue, and these are the 2nd buckets. I'd argue Maxwell Hairston would have been the top of the 2nd bucket for corners.
Yep.
Even though Brandon Beane's commentary makes it sound like he was the bottom half of the 1st bucket. Safety surprising to me a little bit. Some of the names that are still available. Obviously, Chris Paul Jr. still available. Wide receivers not going as fast as I thought they would. Maybe people are down on this class a little bit. I'm surprised no one has jumped on Jalen Royals. I'm surprised no one has jumped on Eli Ayamanor.
Well, you got the Texans taking Jalen Noel just now, so
that's a great pick for them. That is a really good pick. I mean, they got both Iowa State receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Hold up, they got both those guys.
Yeah, they did. They did.
They took one offensive lineman. I don't know what's going on there, but that's funny. The Cardinals are on the clock.
Yep, Cardinals are on the clock.
I haven't even been paying really attention to the draft board, but like we just got 3 SEC defenders too. That's something that I just kind of clicked in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
3 SEC defenders, pretty darn good. I'd argue SEC and Big Ten. That's kind of where you want to live. Cowboys got Shavon Revel. That's a very Cowboys pick. Yeah. So
doing my best here to update the old ticker. I think I got it pretty much good now. Mm-hmm. So we should have everything up to date on there now with the Cardinals. The latest to come in at pick 78. We still have 20. What do we have? 24 picks to go because 102 is the last pick tonight with the comp picks officially kicking in now in the 3rd round. So 102 will be the last pick tonight for those keeping score.
And our next pick is what? I'm sorry,
130 something, I think.
Poor Joe. Poor Joe.
132. 132 is our next pick. Yeah.
I think the first pick has a chance to be a real home run. And I think the Bills hit some really solid doubles in the next 2 rounds for this draft class, which is pretty good. And with ceiling for more. So that's super interesting. Dave, I didn't let you know, but I invited somebody into to come talk to us, John Helpkamp, formerly of Cover One here. He's actually at the draft in Green Bay. I know he looks like he's having a little bit of technical issues, but he's in the waiting room. So we'll be joined by a special guest in a few moments here to talk about some of these Bills prospects, get a little bit of a different perspective on them. Jordan Birch to the Cardinals, another pick that just makes a ton of sense for them. He's a length and strength defender with some pass rush upside. Fits what the good mold Jonathan Gannon likes. Pete Nance says they'll move up from 132 tomorrow. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I know Brandon Beane's doing his press conference right now, so maybe they're not feeling very confident. They can get back into round 3.
Cardinals, Jordan Birch. I don't know if you just said that.
I think the Bills have been pretty chalk so far, and they've been addressing 2025 needs. So if there was a position group they would trade up for, Dave, I think it would be wide receiver. But we'll see. John, give us a thumbs up if you're ready and to join us here. And he's giving us a thumbs up. So I will change the background here. And we got John Helpkamp joining us live from Green Bay. John, how are you doing? You're on mute. You mute there, John.
Milrow. Just kidding. Hi. I'm good, guys. How you doing?
Not too bad. You still got Jalen Milrow there in the waiting room with you there, huh?
What was that?
Is that what I heard? Jalen Milroe's name? He's still back there in the waiting room there, isn't he?
No, he's not here today. He decided
Okay.
not to. He decided to go home. But
Okay.
yeah, no, it's been fun though. Really cool. I got to get in here with Maxwell Hairston last night and get a couple questions into him, which was really great. Just getting to see him, and he's so excited. He's excited about the coaching staff. He's just a ray of sunshine. I fell in love with the kid last night. So yeah, it's been a great time.
It's
I've
really
had like friends of mine who aren't even Bills fans tell me that just watching Maxwell Hairston in his interviews, they're like, wow, like I love this guy. And they're not even Bills fans. So I feel like it's he's giving off the very Keon Coleman vibes of a year ago as far as likability is concerned.
And it seems like maybe one of the parts of the draft process that we overlook is the vibes, because between Maxwell Hairston and Keon Coleman, the vibes are very, very strong with the Buffalo Bills' first selection the past two drafts. But John, 3 SEC defenders. Maxwell Hairston gives you that speed, that playmaking ability, and then you add TJ Sanders and you add Landon Jackson to some length and strength to that defensive line. Give us your thoughts on the Bills draft so far.
The Indianapolis Colts select Justin Wally, defensive back, Minnesota.
Oh wow, that's early, I think, for
Very
Wally.
early for Wally. Yeah.
Sorry, I think I'm having Wi-Fi issues. Hold up. Okay, I can hear you better now.
Wally.
Yeah, that's very early on Wally.
Sorry.
I think you were asking me just my general thoughts on the draft class. My Wi-Fi was kind of
Yeah. Ooh, looks like we might have.
spotty there.
Yeah, sorry, we're losing you there, John. So I'm gonna have to, just because there's a lot of feedback too, so I'm just gonna have to take you out of the room for a little bit here. Sorry about that. So we'll see if we can get John back at some point to talk about draft with us and see if we can get some of those issues corrected. But yeah, Dave, pretty early for Justin Wally. That's definitely something that is pretty intriguing. And I'm just gonna message John here. Maybe talk to the chat a little bit, see how they're feeling about these first 3 picks.
It's a mixed bag, to be honest. We've got some people who are very happy that the Bills have filled needs. That is that's clear, right? The Bills have filled needs. I think there's people who, again, get attached. I'm guilty of this too. We get attached. It was Amos for me, right? And so obviously, I would have taken Amos over Hairston, but then you don't see Amos go until the very, very late second round. So you just never know, like these evaluations that we all do, like there's so much variance. And that's what's great about the draft is there is so much variance. No one's ever really right going into it. There's so much that can go differently. So again, with that said, it's of course a mixed bag of reaction from the comments section, and as you would expect it to be, the Bills Mafia are like that, right? We are very opinionated and we have different reactions, and that's also what makes it great. So you've got people who are saying like trust in Beane, plug the holes, great, and you have other people saying like these are once again horrible picks by Brandon Beane. So it's like you get everything under the sun reaction wise. And look, I am not going to tell anybody how they should feel about it, right? You feel how you want to feel about it. Like we'll never tell someone how they should feel about the picks. Dylan Fairchild goes to the Bengals, the guard from Georgia. And so, yeah, I think that it's the summary is it's been a mixed bag of reactions, I would say.
I guess there's a comment from Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane says, at the moment, Dwayne Carter would slot in as the team's backup one technique defensive tackle behind Daquan Jones.
Really? So that's a change from what he said previously.
Yeah. I wonder if this is maybe some this is the thing too, right? We want to talk about development and taking time and fostering things. He also said at the moment, that's number one. But again, weight room, right? So Dwayne Carter was, let me look up his size. I think it was 305.
Something around that. Yeah.
So Dwayne Carter measured in at the combine last year at he measured in at 6'2", 302 pounds with 33-inch arms and 10-inch hands. Maybe there's a situation where he got up. He can get up to 315, right? And he can add some mass to that frame. I don't know how much mass you can add at 6'2", but maybe that's something that occurred over the course of the offseason or is occurring over the course of the offseason that's allowing Dwayne Carter to make sort of like this type of transitional shift.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely a shift from what he said earlier, going into free agency and even before the draft, because he did make it pretty.
Brandon Beane says the Bills are done for the night and on to day 3, so we can probably end this thing a little early if we want to as well.
Yeah, probably could use some sleep after last night. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to wait around for what is it, 20 more picks we've got. So we're not missing a ton, but we're also we're not.
Which is I don't like that he closed the door like that. Like, he must really want to fill some spots now. So what picks do we have left? Do you have it in front of you? What picks we have left?
Yep. So we have so tomorrow we have 130. We have 132 tomorrow.
That's the 4th round, right?
That's the 4th round. Let me just do this by teams. This will be way easier. Okay. Bills have tomorrow 132. Now these don't give you the overall numbers. So they have 1/4, the 30th pick in the 4th round. They have 3/5, the 33rd, 34th. So they have back-to-back, and the 37th in the 5th round. So 3 late 5th rounders. They have the 1st pick in the 6th round, the 30th pick in the 6th round, and now the 24th pick in the 7th round, which is what they got in the trade from Chicago.
So still have 7 picks left in this draft.
They still have 7 picks.
How are you not on the phone? Like, field stretching wide receiver. That's 1. At this rate, there's probably still a starting caliber safety left. So I would say that's 2. Probably want some more depth at linebacker. That's 3. Probably want a TE3. That's 4. Maybe you want to take a stab at a running back. That's 5. Maybe you want to take a stab at an interior offensive lineman. That's 6.
I mean, how are you not at least considering some kind of move back up to I mean, Xavier Watts is still on the board.
I'm not even thinking about safety right now. I'm thinking about getting my hands on Jalen Royals, Torrey Horton, and Ty Felton. Like, that's where my mind's at.
Yeah. I mean, any of those would be great too. Yeah, I agree with you. Any of those would be great.
I don't like how definitive it is. And anyone who watches this show knows, like, I have some philosophical differences with the way Brandon Beane treats day 3 of the draft. Like, sometimes I feel like he just kind of like doesn't respect it as much as he should.
Kevin Winston to the Titans, and then Caleb Johnson to the Steelers. Fill in.
Caleb Johnson, an offensive lineman, right?
What's that?
Is that an offensive lineman, correct?
Caleb Johnson, I thought he's a running back. Isn't he a running back?
Oh, Caleb Johnson from Iowa. Yeah, I'm thinking of Cameron Johnson from Texas.
Yeah. So that's nice because they lost Najee, and then they feel like they're 2
Rich
running
Hill
backs.
trade value chart essentially says it's probably impossible to make a trade unless you start getting in some next year. So that works too. Day 3 is where he does the best, but we don't see a lot of those day 3 players make the team, right? So it's gonna be really interesting to see. Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see where they go from here. Some guys I like tomorrow, Shamir Dyke and Keaton Crawford. So if you're the Bills, like let's look at some of the positions, right?
Yeah, and let's look at who we like for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So we still have Elik Imanor, Jalen Royals, Torrey Horton, Ty Felton, Jalen Lane, Dante Thornton Jr., Shamir Dyke, Elijah Badger, Ricky White, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Andrew Armstrong, and Jordan Watkins. So someone in that room could stretch the field.
Yep.
Liking that. Tight end board, Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, I really like. If we're talking about strictly Bills fits, Thomas Fedone, who they met with out of Nebraska, CJ Dippery out of Alabama, who's got some special teams versatility. And if you're looking for a pure blocker, like a Lee Smith type, I know your guy in this draft was Jackson Hawes. That's interesting at tight end. Yep. Offensive line, Marcus Mabau, Charles Grant, Wyatt Millum, Chase Lunt, Joshua Gray, Bryce Cabledew, all still on the board. Looking to double dip at IDL. Tomorrow you have your choices of, at least for now, Joshua Farmer, CJ West, Jordan Phillips, Jamari Caldwell, Ty Hamilton, Ty Robinson, Tim Smith, Zeke Biggers, Cam Jackson, Deone Walker, JJ Pegways, Cam Horsley, Nazir Stackhouse. Looking to add some linebacker depth, Pooh Paul, Jeffrey Bassa, Teddy Buchanan, Smile Munden, Kane Madrano, Sean Dolak, Chandler Martin. Looking to add another corner, Jacob Parrish, Noel Williams, Dorian Strong are all names of that nature. But I think Greg and Anth want to go live here, so I think we're done for the night, Dave.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
We're good. Thank you.
We've done about 8 hours the last 2 days. So I think
you guys more than crushed it. You guys absolutely put in some yeoman's work. This is awesome coverage. You guys absolutely killed it. Ant and I will be ready here in about 10-15 minutes. So anybody that's been hanging out, so a ton of you guys here listening, give Ant and I just a couple minutes here and we'll be rolling to dive into TJ Sanders and Landon Jackson.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.
We'll probably go for about 5-10 more minutes here, and then we'll lead right into them. So Greg, just let us know when you want us out, and we'll dip out and segue right into you. I really like Caleb Bransaw on day 3 as a versatile DB. Like Raz off the charts, can play safety, can play boundary, can play nickel, can play special teams probably with his athleticism. So I had Justin Wally in the 6th round as like a nice little double dip, and he just went. Who took him? I'm not even paying attention anymore to who's taking him.
The Titans, I thought. I gotta go back and look. The ticker should have it. Justin Wally. Colts. Excuse me.
Colts.
AFC South.
So we're gonna go right up to 10:30, and at 10:30 we're gonna dip out, and Greg and Anth will take over. The Chiefs have traded up, so that's interesting to see.
The Buccaneers are making their pick at 84, and the Chiefs have traded up to 85. Right. And so who did they trade with? They traded with the Broncos. Wow. An intra-divisional trade. The Broncos trading. Oh, Tampa Bay takes Jacob Parrish.
That's a great pick for them, man. Todd Bowles is such a weird head coach, but I like him. Like I've always liked Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles is like the coolest customer like you've ever seen. Like the dude just he doesn't get flustered. I don't know how. Like for NFL football and just football in general, being as like an emotionally driven game as it is, like that guy has somehow taken like emotion completely out of it. Like I just don't get it how he does it. But I have a lot of respect for Todd Bowles. I think he gets like kind of crapped on unfairly. But I like Todd Bowles. And the Chiefs are already making their picks, so they had a guy in mind.
They had someone in mind. I wonder if one of these speedy receivers has caught their attention. I don't even know what the Chiefs need. I haven't really looked at the Chiefs and their moves this offseason.
I mean, to be honest, once you get to like this range for like a team like that, it's probably all luxury picks, you know. They had their issues on the offensive line as we saw kind of in the playoffs, but let's see, here's the pick. Dawn Aponte is announcing it. CAO.
I don't know who that is.
CAO for the NFL, apparently. And the Chiefs take Noel Williams. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I know he was your guy. Just like, oh, man.
What a way to close the night. We're done. I'm out. It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
No, I mean, we got Maxwell Hairston. I have Maxwell Hairston higher on my board, but every year we have these. What's next? Are they gonna take CJ West too? Like
probably, yeah, probably.
No, like I said, my guys are always those mid-round guys. So the Bills addressed that position early, and they made a different decision in Maxwell Hairston. I'm pumped about it, but stinks to see Noel Williams go to Kansas City, where he's going to fit right in there with Steve Spagnuolo, baby.
Oh yeah,
that's boy, a physical ball hawk like him is going to fit right in with Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, and a guy who, by a lot of scouting reports, projects to be maybe a better fit in like a man coverage situation. Like that's a perfect fit for him. in Kansas City, unfortunately, and the Chargers pick is in already as well now. So
I'm currently tweeting the wedding singer gift to the news of Noah Williams.
Patriots traded pick 85 to the Chiefs for 95 and a 2026 fourth. So the Chiefs give up a fourth next year to move up 10 spots here.
He's good. He's good.
Well, corner run here though in this round, that's for sure. You see AZ Thomas go, you see Jacob Parrish go, now you see Noah Williams go. So definitely a corner run happening in round 3. And you see 2 of those guys go to teams on our radar in the Jets and the Chiefs. So a little bit of a sting there, but we will see. And now the Chargers are on the clock. So
yeah, there are some people on social media like having a meltdown. Like, how dare you not support? Like, what's going on, dude? Like,
how dare you not support what?
Like Josh Allen because we didn't take a receiver with all the receivers.
Oh, like saying like how could the Bills not take
it's just become like I don't know. I'm just like it's just becoming increasingly like no one's ever happy about anything. Like
oh, I mean that like you could say no like that might be the truest statement I've ever heard.
Again, I just had a temper tantrum over Noah Williams here, so all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are done for this evening. We want to thank you so much. Don't go anywhere though. We have the Cover One Buffalo podcast with Anthony Prohaska and Greg Tomset coming up for you in just about 30 seconds. So thank you guys so much. Couch GM's going crazy. Wanted Rosen. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, I was one of them. I wanted Rosen. So yeah.
Thank you guys so much. And until next time, Dave, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Air Raid Hour. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. If you are catching the show on demand, leave a reply in the comments section and we will respond over the course of the week. You can always listen to every episode next day on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify by searching Air Raid Buffalo. Thank you for your continued support, and as always, go Bills!